Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Games Done Quick Hotfix on this fine Sunday afternoon or morning for me. My name is Adef, and this is PB Precipice, the show where we show off real PB attempts as you would see them on an actual speedrunner's stream. Really quick, some announcements before we get into the awesome show we have planned for you all today. AGDQ 2023 online will be January 8th to the 15th. Head to gamesdonequick.com for more info. Game submissions are closed, but the second submission period for games released after September 1st is coming up November 6th through the 12th, and you can go to gamesdonequick.com for more details on that. Fright Fatales is a one-day event on October 23rd to celebrate spooky season with dark, scary, or horror-themed speedruns from the Frame Fatales community. Use !fright in Twitch chat to see the schedule. And finally, on October 31st, we have a Halloween Spooktacular hosted by our good friend Ecdysis and Smooth Operative. But that's all for announcements for right now. It's time to get into this. We are joined by the ever incredible Catalyst. Kata, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Not Sunday afternoon for me, but it's not too late either, so
well,
should be good.
Sunday evening for you, I suppose. Excellent. Well, Kata, what is it that we're seeing today? What are you going to be showing off for us?
All right, so today I'll be attempting to break my pretty new personal best in Elden Ring All Remembrances Glitchless. It's basically a brand new category. It's not even on speedrun.com yet, because no one's really run this since we kind of developed the proper glitchless rule set. So we're basically pioneering something pretty new here, and that should be pretty exciting.
Fantastic. How you mentioned that this category is pretty new. It's not even on SRC yet. You know, what, how new are we talking? When did you start grinding this category?
It's, in the works maybe for 2 weeks now, or something like that. So I finished like maybe 3 runs overall, but a lot of time went into like routing and figuring things out.
Nice. And how low do you think this category can go? Do you have an idea yet of that?
Yeah, so I believe that a pretty good run is gonna end up being under 2 hours in-game time, hopefully.
Wow. Okay, excellent. Well, let's talk about it no further and just see it happen. Feel free to go ahead and explain things and get started whenever you're ready.
All right. So basically. The only thing that I need to mention is the class that we start as, or origin, which is Samurai here. We start as Samurai to begin with the Uchigatana, because we'll be killing Gotsuke Noble somewhat early, and having a bleed weapon helps with that a lot. And then the keepsake, or the starting gift, is going to be the Lance Between Rune, because there are some items I need to purchase early on in the run, and this Lance Between Rune will allow me to do just that. So without further ado, let's begin the first attempt.
Good luck, have fun.
So I mentioned that, thank you. I always have fun, whether I have luck, well, that remains to be seen.
That's a good mindset.
Yeah. So I'm immediately going to go ahead and get the finger here, and I'm going to quit out on the first door, because as I mentioned, the runs for this game are timed using the in-game time, which allows for any kind of discrepancy between different machines, like different computers, to basically be completely nullified, since there's not going to be any load screens involved. So if you have a slower machine and it would load longer, you're not actually disadvantaged. Funnily enough, we also edited the in-game time in a way that even if you have frame drops, which would normally cause you to lose time, that is accounted for. And yeah, so you're like, basically, this is the most competitive that you can have this game be. However, it does lead to some quit outs, like on these doors, where basically it is faster to just quit out to skip the door animation, because it is faster in game time than real time. There's not going to be that many of those, however, so don't have to feel too bad about that. One thing that's unfortunate about pretty much any Elden Ring run, no matter how competitive we make it or whatever category you devise, there's always going to be a lot of running around because of how open world this game is, obviously. Usually, in pretty much every single category, you're going to be running around for a while before you get to fight, simply because you have access to a lot of areas, meaning you also have access to a lot of items. And as such, you can assemble your builds basically before you do anything. And that takes a while because the world is really big. So you essentially end up running around for like 20 minutes. And then sometimes if you're unlucky, you get to the first fight, you die, and then you run around for another 20 minutes. But hopefully that doesn't happen today. So what I did there is I took the first grace. I'll be coming back here later. This is actually a small route change that I made basically yesterday. There are a couple of route changes for the early game that I need to test still. Like I said, this is very fresh. And I haven't really had the time to test everything that I have wanted so far. But we'll get to it. So like the main goals of this category so far are to figure out the routing properly and to basically practice and get better at all the things that we need to do.
Kata, could...
And then we can...
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, there's people coming in sort of asking, I was curious if you could explain what All Remembrances is and how glitchless, what that means for the category.
Of course, it's a great point. I kind of took that for granted. So in this game, if you've ever seen Souls games, obviously there are bosses in those games. However, this game actually has a lot of bosses. It's 165 to be exact. So something like all bosses, which is usually done in Dark Souls, is kind of not really a great category for this game. So instead what we have is All Remembrances, where essentially it means killing all the main bosses that the game has to offer. A remembrance is an item that every single major boss drops. It's basically an equivalent of a boss soul in Dark Souls. You can either use it to get currency out of, or you can also get some special boss items out of them. So that's basically the goal of this category, is to obtain all the 15 remembrances that you can get and then finish the game, reach the credits. And glitchless means that we are not allowed to be using some of the most game-breaking mechanics that the game has. For example, I used one little trick already where I jumped after the first grace and I landed on the ground and I canceled the fall animation. You could probably classify that as a glitch, but basically the spirit of this category is to allow small little things, some small parkour skips that do not necessarily go out of bounds, while at the same time trying to have a category where a lot of the, super game-broken mechanics like wrong warps or the flying horse glitch, Pegasus as we call it, or pizza swap are not allowed, because those break the game a little bit way too much. So the spirit of this category essentially is to end up with a run that will be kind of close to how a casual player might be fighting a lot of the bosses. So here, after getting Torrent, our horse, and after getting the next Grace, which I'll be coming back to, I obtain some items for my physic. I'll be getting 2 upgrades into my physic. That's a special flask, essentially, that I can use to buff myself. I'll be getting a charge attack bonus and a strength bonus. And now I'm gonna try to get Golden Wow out of this guy. Okay, one more hit. There we go. Gonna kill this fella, get the Ash of War Golden Bow, which I can put on my weapon. And it's gonna be a buff that gives me some extra defense and also extra strength. So, because I'll be using a strength scaling weapon, it's gonna give me extra damage. On the way here, I pick up the Exalted Flesh in the camp. That is a consumable that also increases my damage. I'll be using it only for, well, for 2 fights, but of course, I need to get one more later on. And this part of the run is essentially what I was talking about. We are kind of setting up to get everything ready for the boss fights. So here I pick up the mushroom, that is pretty important, and I will also pick up these Titanites here, the upgrade material. This upgrade material is gonna allow me to upgrade the Uchigatana before I fight the first boss. And I'm also gonna talk to this dude. And I'm gonna purchase the Pickled Turtle Neck, which is another consumable that will give me stamina recharge bonus. That's the green bar in the top left. Basically, you need to have at least 1 point of stamina to perform any action. And both one of the Exalted Flesh consumables and also this Pickled Turtle Neck will be used basically on the very last boss of the entire run, hopefully, which will allow me to kill it in 1 cycle.
I love that I mean, you're a Dark Souls runner by trade, and I love that you picked up the smithing stone, and we are all just calling it Titanite anyway.
Yeah, it's all Titanites and Estus Flask and Bonfires and Souls.
Yep, exactly.
But at this point, I've been running the game for quite a while, so I have even picked up on the proper terminology, which is kind of surprising because it did indeed take a while. So there, I picked up a cookbook, and also the cookbook allows me to create, or craft, I should say, sleep pots. That is a mechanic that has been added to this game, where you can craft specific consumables, and I'll basically be only crafting the sleep pots, which will be useful for Godskin Duo and the Godskin Noble fight in the early game as well. I also picked up a rune that's going to allow me to afford upgrading and leveling some stuff early on. Or I should say not leveling, but purchasing some early items that I'll need for the run. And then I went on to pick up the Physic, which is, like I said, the extra flask that will give me the buff, but I first need to equip it with the buffs. Speaking of which, I will get the second tier here, the Spiked Crack tier. And then while I'm here, I'm gonna pick up the Axe Talisman, which boosts the charge attack damage. It's gonna be very important because the main weapon for this game is gonna be the Serpent Hunter, and it hits super hard with its charge attacks. And then if you combine it with the Axe Talisman and the Physic and the other buffs, yeah, we're gonna have a lot of damage. So here's the Axe Talisman. I'm gonna quit out because the bear is activated, and quitting out, besides just skipping some animations, also allows me to reset the enemies to their default state. So even though the bear aggroed, right now he's asleep again. I also picked up all the lilies around the bear. That is also for the sleep pots. Overall, I need basically 5 optimally for the run. I'll be picking up materials for 6 because it doesn't really lose time. Yet at the same time, it allows me for a backup if needed later on. And then I'm gonna get this grace. This grace I get because I will have to run to Nokron after I beat Radan. So this is just a grace that I'll be using later on. And then I warp back here, and then last item that I will be picking up around here is in Kalit, and it's Flame of the Red Mains, which is basically another Ash of War that I'll put on one of my weapons, and I'll be able to... it deals a lot of poise damage to enemies, meaning that it allows me to stagger bosses quite a bit, and it's gonna help out with a lot of fights. Staggering bosses in this game is very strong, actually, because... they generally do not really give you that many opportunities to attack them. But if you stagger them, you obviously have a lot of time. And on top of that, you deal extra damage when they're staggered. So that's extra DPS coming our way as well.
Something really quick worth mentioning, just for any of you, this might be your first time watching PB Precipice or maybe watching like a proper speedrun stream. So first of all, this show, runners are allowed to reset. They've got their splits up. And what splits are, if you're not familiar, they're below Kata's webcam right now. Those are Catalyst's, those are his splits. And they show his individual segment times to sort of like judge his pace as he goes through the run. So you'll see like +00, that means he's tied with his PB as of that split. Obviously his PB right now is 2:12:39. So the goal is just to finish in under that.
That's right, yeah. But I must admit that just finishing like any run, honestly, is very useful nowadays because, like I said, it's a very fresh category, so just getting extra practice in is always good. Okay, so I got the Flame of the Red Mains there. As you saw, I killed the Invisible Scarab using my Uchi. And now I'm gonna head over to Liurnia, and the reason for that is... because I want to go and get my weapon now, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to get to Volcano Manor as soon as possible. More mushrooms to be picked up. Got the insane 3 times mushroom off of 1 drop.
Let's go.
RNG.
Let's go.
That's it's crazy. That really happens super rarely. That is usually you get 1 or 2. 3 is insane.
Also, that jump is
not
hard.
like it's really matters.
That jump you just did is hard.
Yeah, that jump. is a little skip. Instead of running around on the broken bridge and then climbing back here to get around Stormvale to Liurnia, you can do that small little jump. What's really tricky about it is that you have to jump quite a bit later than it actually seems at first glance. I'll be doing some more horse parkour down here to scale down this mountain.
Kata, what patch are you on? A lot of people are asking about that.
It's a very good question. I'm on patch 1.05, so this is a little bit complicated, but I think I'll be able to explain it. Essentially, devising a glitchless rule set for a category is always problematic when the game is still being actively patched, right? Because things just change a lot, and then you have to change the rule set all the time and potentially even maybe deprecate some runs that have already been completed, which is never fun. You don't want to do that to people. So we finally devised a glitchless rule set on the patch 1.05 when that was the current patch. And since then there have been two patches, 1.06 and 1.07, which came out like 3 days ago. So the rules that we have right now are that you basically, for glitchless categories, you cannot down patch any further than 1.05. So you cannot go on a lower patch where you would use like the Sword of Night and Flame or whatever, which was still very broken. And the reason I'm specifically on 1.05 is because 1.06 basically made one little skip in Lanedale more difficult. So there's no reason to actually be on that patch. And also I do strongly believe that I will route in Bloodhound Step into this run because it saves quite a bit of time over running on foot normally in like legacy dungeons. And 1.06 nerfed the Bloodhound Step as well. So in terms of glitches, like the difference between 1.05 or 1.06 or 1.07 for this category, I mean, it's basically one and the same, but some of the game balancing might play a role. And of course the patch might also change in the future. And obviously once a DLC comes out, and I assume it will have a remembrance, then all remembrances will also include a DLC and will have to be done at least on the first DLC patch. So it's possible that all of these runs will inevitably, you know, be somewhat obsolete, but that doesn't really matter because the game is still very young. Like, I mean, it has been out for, you know, almost 8 months, but in terms of like the longevity of a speedrun, that is very much nothing.
Yeah, 100%. That is really young.
Alright, so yet again, I'm gonna quit out around this dragon because he aggroed. If I'm in combat, I cannot warp, so I quit out and I'm gonna warp away from here. On the way, I took another grace, the Temple Quarter, which I'll be going back to later in the run. And then I pick up the Academy key so I can enter the Academy, and I also picked up Kukri. Kukri can be useful in several scenarios, but it's gonna be useful in just, they're gonna be useful in just about like maybe a minute here. Because they're gonna allow me to distract enemies and then perform a little parkour skip, hopefully. So here on this elevator, I have time to pop one of the runes. I'm gonna equip the Axe Talisman, make sure everything is equipped correctly. Let's put the bow here. And what I'm gonna do here is basically I'm gonna throw a kukri to the wall of the Academy. And hopefully the dudes here, the Burger King dudes, are gonna hear it, turn around, and they're gonna give me just enough time to do a little parkour skip here. Just like this.
Oh, that's
very nice.
Great. Also, LOL at Burger King, dude. That's totally what they look like.
Yeah, someone brought this up to me like a couple months ago, and ever since then, that's basically what I call them. So that parkour skip doesn't save that much time, but it's not very difficult to do, and it saves a little bit of time over going through the main gate. So I'm gonna quit out here again. This time it is actually to reset the water wheel cycle. Instead of waiting there for a little bit longer, I'll be able to catch it earlier this time. Thanks to the quit out. Could have probably quit out even a little bit earlier, but not a big deal. So I'm gonna craft 3 pots, because that's the max that I can have. I'm gonna pop the other rune. And I'm gonna swap the cookery for the pots, because I'll be needing them for Godskin Noble. That is like... That and Rykard are like super important fights. Well, basically, especially the Godskin Noble fight is super important, because if I mess it up, it's very difficult to retry. Because I might even have enough pots, but I'll be entering the fights basically under different circumstances, and at the moment I'll be entering Volcano Manor, which is an area that is supposed to be like a, you know, kind of late mid-game-ish, and obviously I still have like my starting levels and everything like that. So I'm very weak. I'll basically be getting one-shot by almost everything. Alright, so here I upgraded my flask using the tier and the seed that I picked up. And then I mixed the physic. And I go to the husks here to purchase a bunch of items. So I purchased some weapons that I can put my Ashes of War on. Both the Sacred Vow and the Flame of the Redmanes. And I also purchase summons, which I'll be using basically just for Fias Champions. Which is an awful fight, and the summons, like, I can afford them. They do not really cost me any other resources, and using them, especially for the last wave of that fight, is gonna be it's gonna be very nice. Most likely, anyway. So now to scale down the water wheel, this is basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna position myself to a precise position, but or place myself to a precise position, but it's not that precise. And then I'm gonna wait to get low enough and basically try to jump on this water wheel. Like this. And then I'm gonna try to catch the bottom one without dying, hopefully. And this way I can get to the bottom sooner. And now I'm gonna intentionally get grabbed by this dude. And that's gonna transport me to the Volcano Manor. So this is supposed to be like, you know, basically a little bit of an Easter egg. And you get transported to the Volcano Manor's kind of like graveyard. And it's a little bit of a like another preview area of this legacy dungeon. However, it is possible to just enter the legacy dungeon from here. And that is a really, really useful strat, because this is where we can go get the Serpent Hunter, we can fight Rykard. Rykard is going to give us a lot of runes. And I can use them to level up and stuff. I quit out on the landing because there's no stand-up animation after that. There are basically areas where for some reason once you quit out there's no stand-up animation. So technically quitting out is not really going to lose any time. So this way I can jump on the ground there on the lava and quit out and avoid the stagger from normally falling down. Heal back up. I'm going to pick up some materials here. These are very important. Getting the +6, and then I'll also be getting the +5 after this next elevator. And then I'll try to focus a little bit on the noble fight. Since I'm still new to this, I'm not going to be able to narrate the fight during it. But essentially, I'll be trying to use all the 3 sleep pots and preventing him from transitioning into his second phase all the way until the end of the fight, where I can basically finish him off before the phase starts.
Yeah, I think
I'll start the fight by buffing up and throwing one of the pots to put him to sleep as soon as possible.
Oh, you're totally good. Good luck.
Thank you. So that's a really good start. I'm gonna throw another pot now and dodge attacks. Okay, stagger here to prevent him from transitioning. And now he's gonna automatically transition, but I'll throw a pod, so he's gonna fall asleep immediately. And one more charge R2, and boom.
That's
Perfect. That was basically as good as it gets.
Masterclass on that fight. That was excellent. Nice work.
Thank you. That was really good. Okay, so one of the two annoying early game bosses gone. That is very nice. Gives us a good chance of getting a run going. So yeah, there's like a couple of tricky things in that fight where you want to start attacking as soon as the noble starts falling asleep. Otherwise, you basically be too late on some of the attacks. So if for some reason you have to dodge an attack and then you're too late, you basically have to start either doing some backup strats or you might just be a little bit screwed. So I'm glad it didn't come to that. Heal around this guy. I mean, he's probably gonna one-shot me if he hits me anyway, but we should be fine, hopefully.
I think you might be one split off on your live split potentially, just so you know.
Oh, that's possible. It's because I have an auto splitter set up, but because I keep on changing the splits with the different early game routing, there might be some problems.
That makes sense.
I'll have a look at it. Oh yeah, I forgot to manually split on Volcano Manor. There are like 2 manual splits that are in this run. And I usually forget both of them. All the other ones are, or should be automated. Get around these guys, hopefully. Ow. Okay, I'll quit out again just for safety. The problem here is that I can get into the portal here. However, before I get ported away, there's a brief period of time where the animation of activating the portal stops and you lose your iframe, so the snake behind you can actually hit you anyways. So that's why I just made sure to heal up and quit out to not risk anything. And here we're gonna get the faithful, the Serpent Hunter. But first, before we fight Rykard, I'm gonna go and upgrade it, because it's gonna add a lot of damage and make the fight faster. So that means I'm gonna run to Ichi now. I'm gonna jump down here. Need to make sure that I land on the rock, otherwise I would die. And then equip the Serpent Hunter, which is a great spear. It's normally basically like a gimmick weapon that's supposed to be primarily used for the Rykard boss fights, but for some reason it's charge art, like it has no level requirements, so you can use it as soon as you obtain it. And for some reason its charge R2 multiplier, damage multiplier, is like 50% or 55% higher than regular other great spears. So it's insanely strong. You'll see throughout the run, most likely. So you see that I didn't level up all the way, like I didn't use all my runes to level up. I left enough runes to be able to purchase the 1 to 4 Somber Smithing Stone upgrade materials from Ichi here, and to have enough runes to also upgrade the weapon.
I presume. I am an old Koto here, perhaps.
So I can go to +6. And now back to the audience pathway. And yeah, because of some of the early game changes that I made, it looks like we're 2 minutes ahead, but we're not. Not yet anyways. So for Rykard, I'm gonna abuse jumping R2s primarily. I'm gonna buff up before the fight starts. And this fight can also be kind of tricky, so hopefully it goes alright. We'll see. Serpent, hello. Didn't feel like doing anything there for a bit. Next should stagger. Never mind. Okay, that was very close, but somehow I'm fine. I thought that one was gonna stagger, but poise must have dropped actually. Fortunately, I was able to just strafe the first attack because I didn't have stamina to roll it. All right, phase 2. Okay, that went pretty well. Phase 1 was like, yeah, I got very lucky that I didn't die. It was a close call, but phase 2 was fine. Ended up getting some of the longer combos, which basically allow him to enter this Inferno Skull phase, which is, you know, that's the one where you basically have to just keep on running around. However, I was able to interrupt the second combo before it finished, so he also didn't activate the skulls. So that was pretty nice. So now I'm gonna go ahead and run to Godric, because, you know, Godric has a remembrance, so we have to kill him. But first I'll have to kill Margit as well. I need to reorganize my inventory a little bit now. I'll put the dagger with Golden Bow here. I'll put Red Mains here. And I also prepared the first remembrance that we got, the Remembrance of the Blasphemous. I put that on my hotbar because I wanna pop it later on for the currency. So activate Golden Bow here. Let's see what RNG we get. As you can see, I'm dealing very good damage now. Very good RNG. That should stagger. And dead. So this is like the power of the Serpent Hunter. And we are not even, you know, super upgraded yet. We are at +6. But the entire build that we put together... and I didn't even use the physic either, but you see that we do have plenty of damage, so... Not every boss is gonna get destroyed like this, because obviously scaling, but to some of them we will deal very, very good damage. However, we also get damaged ourselves, so... I quit out here. This allows me to get the gate to open a little bit sooner. And let's run to Godric. Hopefully I don't die on the way. This run through can be a little bit tricky sometimes. And my last grace is the Stormhill Shack, so quite far away. That's actually where I died here in my PB, so if I can get past Godric without dying, we will definitely be ahead. Sick. Okay, so this part is a little bit tricky, because there's arrows coming from two sides. Yeah. What was interesting there is that the arrows from the front didn't actually come in at the same time. I need to work on that part a little bit. There's also a strat where you can basically just strafe instead of having to roll. I need to look up that pathing and work on it. Alright, so these birds can also be sometimes quite annoying. Hopefully they're fine. Okay, not good. Well, we survived. I'm gonna quit out to get rid of the enemies chasing me. Don't have a lot of health, don't have a flask to heal, so hopefully things will be fine. And you know what? I'm probably gonna take this grace just in case. It's not really worth risking. I shouldn't be dying on Godric no matter what, but just in case. Okay, so for this dude, I'm gonna activate the physic. And put on Golden Wow as well. And this is gonna be the first fight where we're gonna use the Flame of the Red Mains, which is the spell that, or skill, that deals a lot of poise damage. It's gonna allow me to stagger him earlier. And I'm gonna try to get headshots here. That one missed, which is fine. That one didn't. So you saw that the headshot dealt super extra damage on top of the pretty incredible damage I already had. And I just dealt so much damage to the point that I'm able to skip his second phase completely. As he's transitioning, I just murder him. And then I quit out, which allows me to skip his death dialogue. That doesn't work for every boss. And funnily enough, in Dark Souls, if you quit out before the game registers the boss being dead, right? There's some delay between you getting victory achieved and the boss's health bar reaching 0. If you quit out in that delay, usually the boss just remains alive and you have to kill it again. However, for some bosses here, you can just quit out and you'll get the kill as long as you stay within the area. And like I said, that way I can skip the death dialogue that he has. So that's pretty neat. Immediately after, I pop the Remembrance and I walk back to the first step, Grace, because now I'm gonna go ahead and get trapped by this chest. And I'll be heading over to Celia Town and then towards Radahn, and I'll be fighting Radahn. For Radahn, I'll be doing, one of the bigger skips. No skips that would skip a boss that's normally required on the routes are allowed, because that's sort of kind of against the spirit of the category that we were trying to create here. However, this next skip that I'll be doing, next 2 of them anyways, but primarily the Stake of Marika skip, doesn't skip any bosses, it just basically skips a bunch of running around. Which is good, because there's already enough running around in the game as is, because it's just so big. Yeah, another reason why the Serpent Hunter is so good, besides the no level requirements and its strength, is the fact that it is a somber weapon, and somber is just a little bit too OP, unfortunately, compared to regular smithing stones. Alright, so let me try to do another parkour skip here on the horse. Very nice. Get up here, Torrent. Okay, and one more up here instead of going around.
Wasn't that the one that they patched by putting the tree there and then the tree just made it different? Like, there.
So what happened is there was a different version of the same skip, and 1.03, like the first patch they released, that removed that tree. But we discovered a different way, which is what I just did, and this is a little bit more difficult, perhaps, but it's also faster, so, and isn't patched, so yeah.
Miyazaki really hating speedrunners. It's just so funny.
Yeah, to the point of removing trees, yeah, it's quite ridiculous. So because I'll be dying here, abusing the Stake of Marika, I spend all of my runes to level up strength and also upgrade my flask to its final form, and here I basically jump over a kill plane and fall to my death. And if you look at the top left of your screen, you can see that there's the Stake of Marika icon, meaning that I'm within the range of these Stake of Marika objects, which essentially allow you to spawn at them. They're like a checkpoint. They're not a full-fledged grace. You cannot rest at them. You cannot, level up and stuff, but you can spawn there. And essentially the goal of them is to reduce the amount of run backs that the game has. So Radahn is a pretty annoying boss as well. Basically, there are 2 openers that I will most likely get. And, oh, interesting. I didn't actually get the deload. Ow. Okay, well, that's fine. We can just retry. So I don't know what happened there. It's possible that I ran too far back as I was trying to explain something. But the opening that I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to run away from the guy as far as possible to the point of deloading him. That interrupts his ranged attack and should allow me to just bait him towards me and fight him melee with much greater ease. So let's try this again. And yeah, then we'll see what kind of RNG we get. Okay, so see, this time he's shooting to the side, and now he's gonna approach me to melee range. And I'm hoping to get basically like a repeated charge attack which should make the fights easy, that's not the attack, so it's gonna be interesting. Okay, so I got really unlucky there. I mean, I also played it risky, I'm not gonna lie. But this is okay, because thanks to the stake of Marika, we can run back, and the PB is somewhat free. But this is what I'm talking about, is like, what can be annoying about the long setup for a run like this? Is you set up for a while, you know, you play for over 30 minutes, and then basically the opening attack you get on Radahn is gonna heavily determine whether you survive or whether you like lose a lot of time or whatever. But yeah, I played it a bit risky. I did a 1 extra charge attack because I was expecting him to continue with the AoE, but that he didn't do. Alright, that's the attack that we are looking for, so that should make the fight better. Well, not if I miss. That's a little bit of a disaster, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. Well, it seems like my Radahn segment needs some work. So my mistake there, I believe, is I stayed locked on for the second part of the charge R2, which essentially made me aim upwards, because when you lock on... when you lock on, you are aiming up on Radahn, and that reduced the distance of the attack. If I hit the second charge R2, I would have been able to get him into the buff range, and then basically make the fights pretty streamlined from there on out. I was gonna say 3rd time's the charm, but it's actually the 4th time, so maybe 4th time's the charm. In the end, as a speedrunner, you're basically looking to always improve as a player, and if you can reset while also learning something new or something that you messed up, that's exactly what you're looking for. Oh, I rolled too early. Not like this. Okay, that was a choke right there. I should have just healed. I saw that I had little HP, and I essentially went... I got a little bit hasty on that roll there. But yeah, as I was trying to say, like, as a speedrunner, you're always trying to improve as a player, because there's always going to be another run. So if you reset, even if it's a good run, if you reset and you can learn something new from that reset, or it tells you that you need to practice this, or you encounter a situation that you haven't really encountered before, that's always a reset that is worth your time.
Yeah, because
then on a better run that will inevitably happen,
right,
you're not gonna make the same mistakes.
And ultimately, you know, like, your goal is to know as many things as possible, so you've seen every situation, and that's when you'll get the run you want.
Well, this is going, I don't know what's really happening, because I'm getting the good attack, but essentially the problem is this. I'm ending up with a position that's really far behind him, that kind of doesn't allow me to just do 4 charge attacks at the beginning. I have a feeling that it's something to do with my approach and the way he ends up pushing me kind of behind him. But I don't really know, to be honest. Well, we'll see. You just gotta keep on hammering it down.
You got this. You got this. Chat, let's send our energy to Kata. Let's see those bless emotes.
I missed 1 charge R2 again, but I think we'll be fine. Okay, he jumped away. That's because I missed that one charge R2. If I hit that extra charge R2, he would have staggered there with that last attack. Can't believe that I actually missed with the jump attack there. I'm torn this tankier than I am. That's jealous. Well, it's looking like a first reset.
Yeah, this is probably the only time you could reset if you want to.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it would still be possible to PB. You can see the best possible time on my splits. Also, it seems like I switched to some different comparison. But yeah, plenty of mistakes that I made there, not gonna lie.
It's up to you. I would say if you want to reset, you'll have to do it now. Otherwise, you'll just have to plow through.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning, I think.
Okay, great. Well, then
Let's do it now.
We're gonna throw to a quick break then. So everybody stick around. We'll be back with Kata's next attempt in just a second here. Do not go anywhere. We'll be back with more PB Precipice in just a moment. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Games Done Quick Hotfix. Again, this is PB Precipice, the show all about personal best attempts. Really quickly, some announcements before we get back into the next attempt. Your subs, Prime Gaming subs, gift subs, and bits cheered on the GDQ Twitch channel help support Games Done Quicks, both Games Done Quick, both with Hotfix and shows like this one, and with AGDQ 2023 costs. So please consider subscribing if you enjoy daily GDQ content. And if you want to follow what Games Done Quick is up to, use exclamation links in Twitch chat for all things GDQ. And Kata, with that, go ahead and get our second run on the road here. My God, I'm struggling to speak. And tell us what we're looking at.
Right, so if you're just joining us, this is the second attempt today. We're running some Elden Ring All Remembrances glitchless. The first run saw its dire and dark end at the hands of Radan, but that's what you sometimes deal with. Sometimes there's just doing attempts shows you that you might have some kind of a systemic problem with a certain section of your run, and doing attempts allows you to identify that and then go ahead and work on it. Obviously, don't have time to work on it right now, so just have to hope that the same incident doesn't happen again, but I know what I'll be practicing tomorrow, that's for sure. So, there are a couple of things that I didn't mention the first time around. Like, for example, here, instead of fighting the grafted Sion, it's just faster to die. Jump off the cliff. This is because even if you manage to defeat the first boss, you basically only, continue for, I don't know, the next 10-15 seconds, and then basically there's a cliff that kind of crumbles underneath you and you end up in the same spot anyway, so it's obviously quite a bit faster to just jump off and give up immediately. But yeah, this run will essentially end up being a no reset run. The good news is that, like I said before, since my PB is very fresh, this entire category is very fresh. There's a very good chance that even with a no reset where I die multiple times, we can go ahead and try to beat a PB. And if not, then in the end, like I mentioned before, it's all about improvements. And considering I've finished about 3 runs of this category so far, any run that I can finish or that I can get far, even though obviously I practice all parts of the run, is very, very useful. Another thing that I haven't mentioned, for example, is that you see me jumping up any hills. That is because it is faster. One little thing I do in between the jumps is I block. That is because normally if you just spam jump, you end up basically getting... There we go, picked up the material. You end up getting a little bit of a jump cooldown and you get mini jumps. So you want to be blocking in between. On Calais, like besides stealing his smithing stone, I also purchased a cookbook. Not the cookbook, sorry. I purchased the... yeah, the cookbook. I purchased the...
Do you get a cracked pot?
Oh, it's not a cookbook, it's called...
the cracked pot?
No, yeah, that's right. I purchased the crack pot, I purchased throwing knives, which will be useful in some fights. That will allow me to keep poise up on enemies. But not a cookbook. What I was trying to say is I'm buying, like, whatever the crafting kits. That's what it's called. There we go. Casual knowledge coming back to me.
It is always funny when, like, people who do speedruns or challenge runs or whatever... like they're so used to the speedrun terminology and everything that when somebody's like, what's this boss called? They're like, I don't know.
Yeah, especially with a game that's as sizable as this, it's very easy to gain experience in primarily like the areas where you do the speedruns or challenge runs in, and then a lot of areas might, you know, you might just not be familiar with. Another thing that I didn't really explain is that sometimes on some graces I'll be able to... Basically, there's a little trick that you can do, is if you light a grace from an angle, like either facing away or like being at least 45 degrees away from the grace, first the player character actually has to turn around into the grace and only then starts lighting it up. And during the light up animation, it is not possible to open the map anymore or open like a quit out menu or whatever. However, doing that little pivot, like this, it is possible to open it up so I can immediately warp to the grace as I light it. And essentially this way I skip the remaining portion of the light up animation. And because on some graces there's also no stand up, I basically do not lose any time. And only save time instead by getting rid of the rest of the animation. I'll be using that quite a bit throughout the run. Not just by warping to the grace, but, you know, for example, quitting out to get out of combat and stuff like that. Granted of lift of rolls comes to mind, or prayer room after Loretta in the Halleck tree, for example.
Kata, would you mind just because there might be some new eyes, just sort of re-explaining all remembrances and glitchless and what patch and all that stuff?
Yeah, of course.
Thanks.
So, as I'm trying to kill this knight to get the golden bow, Ash of War from him. That was a really loud sound effect for some reason. We are running all remembrances here, which is essentially the equivalent of what you would run in Dark Souls for all bosses. However, this game's all bosses would be very long. No one has done runs of that specific category in a long while, actually. It was about 5.5 hours last time. It would be faster now, but still just a lot of running around and not the most thrilling category to run. So instead we have the All Remembrances category, where basically 15 what you could call major bosses that this game has to offer drop a remembrance item, an equivalent of a Dark Souls boss soul. And the goal of this category is to obtain those 15 remembrances, so kill those 15 bosses, and then reach the credits. On top of that, we are running glitchless, which means that I'm not allowed to basically use any major glitches that would, you know, mess around with the gameplay a lot, like the pizza swap or the wrong warps that are present in the game. And on top of that, I also cannot really skip any boss that would normally be mandatory on my way. So for example, for the Godskin Noble fight that we saw earlier, there's a skip that you can do, and it's basically just a bunch of parkour around the arena. And you cannot really consider it to be out of bounds, but because of this rule that we introduced to kind of keep the spirit of the category, I must go ahead and fight in. The Godskin Noble, I mean. And then when it comes to the patch, I'm on 1.05. The reason for that is because when we devised the glitchless rule set, the current patch was 1.05 at the time. So we decided that basically for glitchless, you need to be on 1.05 or something newer. So I'm not down patching lower than that, but I'm also not using the 1.06 or 1.07 patches, because there are some small changes that would make the run either more annoying or slower. Like there's a little skip in main del that is made a little bit harder. Well, quite a bit harder actually in 1.06. And eventually I suspect that I'll be using the Bloodhound step for this run as well. And 1.06 nerfs the Bloodhound step quite a bit. So 1.05 right now is the patch of choice for glitchless. However, if a DLC comes out and it has a remembrance, obviously all remembrances will need to be done at least on the first DLC patch of the game. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when the DLC inevitably arrives. The hope is that the game's going to be in a decent state for speedrunning, to the point where maybe we don't even need like a specific glitchless category, but can just call it like, you know, all remembrances, or just all remembrances current patch or whatever, and end up with much easier rule sets that isn't as arbitrary as what we have for this category. But of course the opposite can also be true, and a lot of game-breaking glitches can be left in. So it all depends on what From Software do. Alright, I'm just gathering a couple of items. Nice, got a cool little trick here, which I didn't get last time. You saw me jump on the chest and then open the chest as I was standing on top of it. That basically cancels the opening animation and allows me to pick up the item immediately. Cool little trick. What I picked up there was the Axe Talisman, which boosts my charge attack damage. Basically my R2s with the Serpent Hunter are the primary damage dealer for this run, so it is really important to get that talisman. It's basically on the way as well. And while I'm here, I'm gonna get this Grace, because I'll be using it later to go to Nokron if this time, you know, Radan doesn't completely obliterate me. The nice thing is that, like, you can also warp pretty early if you do this little trick at the Grace, because the Grace actually gets activated even before the animation would suggest. So like when you hear the sound effect and stuff, the Grace has already been activated like half a second beforehand, so you can save even more time with proper timing. And here I'll be running back to Kaled, and I'll be getting Flame of the Redmanes, which is going to be a skill allowing me to hopefully stagger a bunch of bosses. And then deal a lot of damage to them, because it basically creates extra opportunities to attack the bosses, and they also take extra damage while they're staggered. And a lot of the times it is possible to like stagger the boss, get a charge R2 in, then get a riposte. The riposte is gonna deal less damage than the charge R2 because of all the buffs in the build that I'm using. But then usually another charge R2 is possible after the riposte is finished, so yeah. Redmanes is Flame of the Redmanes is a very important part of the run as well. Besides all the other items that I've been collecting so far. So that was Redmanes. And now I'm running back, or warping back, to the Stormhill Shack, and I'll be running to Liurnia. Liurnia is the second overworld, basically, but the reason I go there is so I can get even further and get to like a mid to late game, kind of late mid-game legacy dungeon, the Volcano Manor. The reason for that being, you know, the Serpent Hunter is there, so that... Oh, we got the 3 mushrooms again, no way.
Run is blessed! Run is blessed!
Yeah, this is basically confirmed, cannot fail. The rest of the run is just a formality now.
Yeah, it's a fungal run, we're good to go.
I like how I literally talk about how rare it is to get 3 mushrooms from one drop and we get it again. That's pretty funny. Getting some good RNG, well, never mind. I was gonna say I'm getting some good RNG on the fauna here. Squirrels not blocking me, and as soon as I try to say that, 2 squirrels got in the way. All right, some more parkour to scale down this mountain. And get to the purified ruins teleporter. This is basically the fastest path that you can take to get to the Raya Lucaria Academy. We'll be coming back here later as well, because you see the Divine Tower of Liurnia to the right side there. I'll have to go there to get the Curse Mark of Death, which is necessary to access the 40 Sacks boss fight, which is a Remembrance boss. It's probably one of the bosses that takes the longest time to set up, because you have to progress Rani's questline a bunch, then get the Curse Mark, and then go to Fia and get hugged for like 3 minutes. Then you enter the fight. But that's gonna be happening a lot later. Just reorganizing my inventory here a little bit. Doesn't really matter too much, because there's plenty of time to do it later, but might as well when I'm stuck in that warping animation. So hopefully there should be no stand-up here, but sometimes there is. Yeah, like this time. Because this game is... there was a stand-up there last run as well. I don't know, this is like one mystery we still have that needs to be solved. I mean, there's plenty, I bet, but this one is really one that bugs me. Is what determines whether there's going to be a stand-up after quit out or not. And we basically narrowed it down to a couple of things. So sometimes it depends on the items you have equipped. Sometimes it depends, like, it very much depends on the area where you are. Sometimes it can also depend on which direction your analog stick is pointed during the loading screen. It's really weird, and we don't really know exactly yet, except for some of the places where we know for a fact that it's possible to get no stand-up animation after a quit out. Or maybe, on the other hand, it's better that we do not know, because if you manage to figure out how to never get a stand-up animation, then the run could basically transform into just running around a bunch and quitting out all the time. There's already quite a few quit outs in Faramazula to like cancel landing animations and reset enemies and stuff, so...
Yeah, perhaps it would be a blessing and a curse.
Yep. And then, like, how do you moderate something like that, right? Like, how do you police this? Like, can you make there's only a certain amount of arbitrary rules that you can have. That's the problem with Elden Ring in general. Like, it is a great game. I really like the game. But the speedrun itself is just... it has a lot of problems. It's not as conducive to speedrunning as something like Dark Souls is. Because the pace is just kind of weird with all the long setup at the beginning of each attempt, basically. And just in general, there are a bunch of annoying things that the game has. But... for this category, I do like the fights a lot, so that kind of makes it up for me, for now at least anyways. We'll see how long I stick with this, but right now my goal is to figure out the proper routing for this, obviously get a good run, get this category on the leaderboards officially, so other people can also try it out. Well, I mean, anyone can try it out already, but generally if something is on the leaderboards, then people are going to be more inclined to try out the specific category.
Yeah, by the way, everybody, please do follow Kata on Twitch. I mean, he's like one of the best Souls speedrunners of all time. Truly has like a wide array of games that he plays and has really been grinding Elden Ring this year. So I cannot recommend Kata enough. If we could get a shout out in Twitch chat, because shout out is an epic new feature where people can literally just click the follow button at the top of the channel and bada bing, bada boom, it's done. Highly recommend that you follow him. In the meantime, though, I'll plop the Twitch link in the chat.
Don't make me blush too much. I'm on camera. But yeah, thank you. This is this is basically what you can expect at the moment from my stream. Hang out a lot, talking to chat a lot, and figuring out this category at the moment.
It's a chill place. And also, like, Kata has like a huge brain for Dark Souls stuff. So, you know, anytime there's something you need info on, this man's got the tech.
It seems torrent, whereas I'm there is, but
That is true. I do try to make as many videos for YouTube as possible, but they take a while, man. They take a while.
Yeah, well, when you're doing
It's a
the
lot of
like
editing to be
when you're
done.
doing like the After Effects stuff that you've got going on, I mean, of course they're gonna take a while. The production value on your
Yep.
videos just keeps going up.
Well, it's only getting more and more fun
Good.
as I get better in using the software.
What is it exactly that you're using for that? Is it like a mix of Premiere and After Effects, or like what is your sort of workflow?
That's pretty much correct. Those are the main ones, Premiere and After Effects. But I've also like recently learned how to play with Blender a bit more. I finally have been able to export both Elden Ring and Dark Souls character models with skeletons and stuff. So getting more into 3D animations and yeah, kind of expanding my horizon a bit more.
Nice.
You're nomad. Lay out your...
So yeah, we made our way through the academy, all the way to the schoolhouse classroom. And then I went to the roundtable halls to upgrade my flask and set up my physic and also get a bunch of items, mainly weapons that I put my Ashes of War on, and also the wolf summons to have them available for Fierce Champions once we get there, hopefully. And also upgraded my Uchigatana to be able to do the Godskin Noble fight, which is a very important fight. It's very tricky, so I hope that it goes as smooth as the last attempts. I'll be using the sleeping pods that I crafted to hopefully get a good fight. But first I'm gonna get trapped by this Virgin Abductor and transported to the Volcano Manor.
There were so many people. I mean, I think I bring this up every time that this sequence takes place on a GDQ show that I'm hosting, which is a few times now. But I just remember, like, when this happened to me in my casual playthrough, I thought nothing really of it because I'd played Bloodborne. And in Bloodborne, there's the thing where it takes you to Yahargul, like the Unseen Village or whatever.
Yep.
And so I was like, oh, this must be like that. But Twitter was like a flutter with people being like, wrong warp discovered, wrong warp discovered. Like, I wrong warped to Volcano Manor. And I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's very easy. At least in my casual playthrough, I completely missed patches in Limgrave, even though I like scoured that area quite a lot.
I also did not find him.
And yeah, he's the dude who tells you that, you know, there's a... He basically tells you that this Volcano Manor abductor is gonna take you to the Erdtree. So he hints at you. He tells you to go ahead and try to get grabbed there.
Wow,
So,
I did not know
that. Kind of tells you that it's that it's an intended feature. But obviously, if you completely miss patches, then rip that hint.
GLHF with Godskid
All
Noble.
right. Yeah, thank you, thank you. I'll collect this Somber Smithing Stone 5 first. And then I'll open the fight by buffing up and throwing the first pot as the noble's about to spawn to hopefully put him to sleep. Well, or I'll just die on the way. That's fine, that's no problem. I can just run back. That takes like maybe 40 seconds. I rolled slightly too early there, which can happen. We all make mistakes. Unfortunately, this is one of those that I cannot really learn from. It's just messed up the execution. But as long as I don't lose any bombs, and I haven't even entered the fights, we're good. So let's run it back. I'll probably have to quit out here for the Serpent now. I believe he'll be in the way, yep. So quitting out, as I mentioned before, not only skips certain animations, but also resets enemies to their default state. So you're gonna see the Serpent be a little bit further. He's gonna attack me. I'll block it. Yep. Insane range on that attack. Okay, let's not die this time. I don't know why I went to get the runes when there's 0, but
No, you got him back.
it's fine. Yeah. Alright, rest should be free, hopefully. That attack that I dodged there, that I was forced to dodge, like, you need to roll it so late. It's kind of insane how delayed it is. 2, 3, 4, and a charge out 2, and that's that. Alright, so that's one of the biggest hurdles in the early game traversed. That is a relief.
Let's go.
Obviously, when just like doing attempts regularly, it's like no big deal. If I were to die here, would just go ahead and run around for 20 minutes again. But tonight here, it's a special show, and we do not have all the time in the world. That's another thing, actually, sometimes with like long runs. It becomes problematic to stream them sometimes. Now, this isn't like an extremely long run. The you know, the RTA is about like 220 or whatever, 215. But still, if you like, you know, if you stream for like 6 hours, let's say you have 6 hours to stream, and you reset like 5 hours in, then it's like, what do I do for the next hour? Becomes kind of weird. It's always good to have some kind of a side activity that you can do. Or some run that you can whip up really quickly or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I do find this run length pretty nice. Most of my runs are around like 1 to 1.5 hours. Doing something longer like this is quite nice. But yeah, it can become problematic to stream. Like Dark Souls 100% was the same thing for me, where basically the run was like 3.5 hours, and you might just not have enough time to do another attempt. Okay, didn't get hit here this time, so I'm not gonna quit out. Snake's on the pursuit, but we're good. So now I'm gonna enter the Rackard Arena, but I'm not gonna fight him yet. I'm gonna peace out first. And I have to obviously choose the correct grace to warp to. I'm gonna peace out first and go upgrade the Serpent Hunter. Our pièce de résistance that we'll be using for the rest of the run.
A little bit of French there. Nice.
Yeah. Didn't take it in high school, but maybe I should have. Missed the opportunity.
You already know 2 languages. You're fine.
So yeah, now we head to Ichi. The fastest way to get there is to take this teleporter. And we picked up the +5 and +6 Somber Smithing Stones. What is really neat is that Ichi sells +1 to +4. So we'll be able to get all the way to +6. In all the patches on 1.03, it was possible to get a +7 Smithing Stone very early and very easily in the Volcano Manor. However, that has been patched out. That little skip there. So now we need to only get +7, +6.
Oh, I am an old Koto here. Perhaps you.
And that +7 we cannot get anymore is actually quite a big dent. in the routing, because it is also possible to get like +8 and +9 relatively early, but the +7 is just, it's problematic. And obviously if you're missing +7, well, you cannot upgrade to +8 or +9 even if you have the necessary materials. Alright, right card, gonna open up with a jump R2 into an L2 follow-up. And another jump R2. He's doing a grab attack, roll to the left. I'm gonna go for another jump attack because this one should stagger. I'm wrong again, that's fine. This one staggers then. There we go. Finishing off with some R1s. I'm gonna rebuff because Golden Bow only lasts for 30 seconds. Physic lasts for like 3 minutes. Open up with a charge R2 again, see what he does. Okay, I misread that attack, but that's fine. There's a wall behind me. No, not anymore. I'm gonna have to deal with skulls. Never mind, I actually staggered him. Okay, no firestorm on the ground. And that's right card. Alright, cool. So that was a little bit scary. Basically, as I mentioned last run, he does have certain attacks that kind of progress his skull phase. I see we are messed up on the splits again because I forgot to probably manually split. That's fine. I'll fix those. Let's get 17 endurance here and 41 strength. The strength is to just get simply more damage. And the 17 endurance is actually necessary for Morgoth later on. With 17 endurance, I'm able to do 2 charge R2s and 2 charge R2s and 1 R1 afterwards, without having to recharge any stamina if I'm at full. But yeah, I'll sort out the splits on the next next opportunity. Let's see what Margit RNG we get this time. Not as good as last time, but with the damage we have, still pretty chill.
I shall remember thee, tarnished, smoldering with thy need.
Alright, so this time, because we are doing a no reset, I'm gonna take this Grace, just in case I died on the way to, it takes like 5 seconds, maybe not even that, just in case I died on the way to Godric.
It's tightly the guard you breached.
Which can happen since the run through the Stormwell Castle is filled with enemies and other problems. But with this Grace, it's not going to be as bad of a run back if I do indeed die. One thing I also haven't mentioned, like, you see me crouch like this. That is actually faster for regenerating stamina than just letting go of sprints and then sprinting again. Well, there we go. See, good thing I took the Grace. I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, the insight there, the knowledge.
More like the lack of confidence.
Well, you know,
interesting
hey,
that I got one shot this time.
sometimes lack of confidence pays off. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I really need to look into the strafing strat there. Because, like, again, it must be some pathing that I do there. where basically the arrows that are coming in from the front, they were very delayed. Like, you're supposed to kind of roll both the sets of arrows at the same time. See, and they like just didn't come in simultaneously, which they normally do. But this time I didn't get counter hit, so I didn't get one shot, so it's all good. Alright, for the birds, I need to time my jumps better, because I can basically jump away from the attack. Yeah, like that. And again, so I don't have to be rolling those. And now we're gonna approach Godric, and again, I'm gonna try to get him to stagger at the perfect time where I can go ahead and try to get a headshot afterwards, which is gonna deal massive damage. And if I can deal enough damage, I'll be able to skip the second phase of the fight. So that is what we're going for here. I'm gonna open up with the Flame of the Red Mains to get some poise damage in. Two-Hand Serpent Hunter, roll the opener, charge R2. Position myself to the middle here. Get a headshot. There we go. Insane damage. And now 2 more charge R2s for the kill, and I'll quit out immediately. That way I can actually skip the death dialogue of the boss. Because as long as I stay in the near vicinity, as long as I stay within this area, he's still gonna die. There, you heard it. Alright, cool.
Nice work.
So from here, I am going to head over to Radan again. The fastest way to get there is to take this first step grace and then get trapped by the chest here in a Gil Lake. That's gonna transport me to Celia, the Celia tunnel. From there, I'll do the Celia town skip to get to Church of the Plague really quickly, and from there, I'll do the Stake of Marika skip. That basically allows me to skip the Radan festival and stuff. A lot of running around, but a lot of running around is also skipped. If rats let me through, that would be very nice. What's funny is that in the network test, this chest actually had an item. So like on my first session of Elden Ring, when the game came out, I was, I had tried the network test before. And so I was like, yeah, I know that there's an item in this chest. So I got to this chest and I just kind of looked at chat while I was looting. And then all of a sudden I got trapped and transported God knows where.
I kind of love that they were like, we don't want people to know about this yet. And I think that's great.
Yeah, that was pretty dope. Yep. It's nice that they decided to, well, it's kind of weird that you don't have regular mimics anymore in the game, but it's nice that they decided to be a bit more creative with what the chests, with the trap chests and what they can do.
I'm so accustomed to searching for mimics that like for the first 10 hours of gameplay, I probably hit every chest before I opened it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think I was kind of similar in that regard. Okay, there we go. So that's the first part of the skip, the more difficult part. We're basically getting around the seal that is in the Celia town there that you would normally have to unseal by lighting some fires there. And this is the second part of the skip where I'm basically just skipping around instead of having to run around the entire rock there. I can just climb up directly. Oops. Nice attack. Just getting warmed up.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so here I'm gonna upgrade my flask. And I'm gonna spend the runes that I have because I'll be dying, so I get some extra strength. Upgrade my flask to max. Well, max. It's obviously not max, but it's max for this run. I don't really need to upgrade it anymore, and it would only lose time. And then I'm gonna jump over this kill plane and land in Radan's arena. And as you can see in the top left corner of your screen, I am within the stake of Marika range right now. And I'll be able to respawn at the checkpoint it provides. And this way I'm skipping quite a bit of running around, having to go to his castle and stuff like that. Alright, so Radam didn't go great last time. Let's hope that it goes better this time.
Let's go, Kata. Let's go.
That's fine. Into a stagger. Now he's gonna take extra damage because he's staggered. 1 and 2. There we go.
Nice.
Well, that went a lot better.
Nice work.
That went a lot better than last time. Not the cleanest still. There was one misposition, sort of. I ended up being in a really weird position after the first 2 charge R2s, but it was fine. So I went back during the break. I checked my PB. And I figured out that I actually normally don't really lock on once when I'm starting the fight, like with the first charge R2. And that got me in a much better position, and I was able to very easily do the second charge R2. And the first 2 charge R2s are very important because they get him low enough that he starts buffing up his weapon. And then if you're in a good position, you can basically play around knowing that he's gonna buff. Get behind him, get some more hits in, and then you stagger before he jumps away for the phase transition, and then finish him off. So that was much, much better. Now I warped to the Fort Height Grace that I took when I was getting the Axe Talisman, because now we are running to Nokron. Now, Nokron also has a bunch of annoying fights, but we have actually some matters to attend to first, really. Here, hopefully you'll be able to see the bow cancels again. This is I didn't see it there, but this is a little glitch, basically, or a little trick. It's glitchless, so I shouldn't say the word, but I guess no major glitches would maybe be a better name. I like that a lot better than glitchless usually, because it's, you know, it's more vague. It allows room for allowing certain techniques that might be fun to do. But yeah, bow cancels are a little trick that you can do where basically it depends on each individual jump, but you can two-hand the bow in the right hand as you're jumping, and if you do it at the correct time, you are gonna completely skip the full animation. So that is pretty neat. The problem is that all the timing, it's never consistent. As in, every single individual jump is gonna have its own timing. So you basically have to go, and every single jump that you're gonna do in the run, you have to go ahead and try to find the setup for where to jump from, where to land, and when to press R1. Some of the bow cancels are easy to do simply because you're, you know, jumping from flat ground and landing on flat ground. Some of them are a lot more problematic because the ground's just, the surface isn't even. It's a lot more important to get them down properly in something like regular all remembrances with all the glitches, which is like 1 hour shorter. 101.14 is the recce by me. I have to say that, of course. Humble brag.
The new AR record is really good, Kata.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent run. There's still room for improvement, but like it gets kind of stale, so I'm pretty happy with the way it is right now.
Oh, I'm so glad we get to see the Mimic tier fight in this run.
Yes, the high quality boss fight. So there's actually some stuff that is a little bit random here. Okay, and I got it perfectly, so there you go. That was a great enemy felt right there.
It also, like, it's so funny that it gives, like, easily the most overpowered, like, casual summon as well.
Yeah, yeah. That and Tish are really good summons. And like, especially
Yeah.
on the 1.02, the original version, Mimic was just insane. But yeah, I was gonna say that there's a little bit of RNG, or I guess it's not RNG, but it's really precise timing, I assume. And if you basically hit the Mimic basically perfectly when it spawns, you still also get this stealth bonus damage, right? Because if you attack enemies without them knowing about you, you get extra DPS bonus. And if you don't get that bonus for the Mimic, you actually do not one-shot it, so then you have to try to get, you know, an R1 in before it heals and stuff. It can be a little bit messy. All right, so here I actually have some stuff to do. And the first thing that we will do is we will get this grace and quit out. I quit out because I'm in combat, so I cannot warp. And we're gonna go ahead and go back to Ichi. But not to visit our favorite blacksmith this time, but we'll be running to the Carrier Manor. The reason for that is because I wanna start progressing Rani's questline. And also, I want to get to Lake of Rot, and there's a teleporter there, and that will take me there. And the reason I want to go to Lake of Rot is because in the Lake of Rot, I can get my +7 and +8 Somber Smithing Stones, and thus upgrade my weapon a little bit further. This actually is somewhat of a recent change, like I said. I was getting the +8 and +9 in Kaled. So for the boss fights upcoming in Nokron and Morgoth, for example, I would have +9. Right now, I'm only gonna have +8 because I'm skipping the earliest Somber Stones and instead getting +7, +8 in Lake of Rot, and then getting +9 in Mogwin Palace, which is basically pretty much on the way as I'm in Mogwin Palace, and I get +10 there as well, and then upgrade to +10 from +8. But those are like some of the biggest worries that we have when it comes to the routing, is figuring out the upgrade path. There's a lot of different options that you have. There's technically the Flame Grant Me Strength buff that you could get, which takes about 35 seconds in the early game. It might be worth getting, and maybe not picking up the +8 in the Lake of Rot. But that is stuff that still needs to be tested, and because the category is so young, and I'm doing most of the testing, I have a limited schedule, obviously, so I'm getting through it a little by little. So this elevator here will be a nice dagger. Will be a great opportunity to pop one of the remembrances that we have. But there's going to be plenty more elevators to take, actually. There's going to be quite a bit of running around right now. Except first, I'm going to fight Loretta from AliExpress, as I like to call it. We'll basically be calling, fighting, rather.
That's really funny.
I mean, it is. It's like when you order a 3070 Ti from wish.com, this is what you get. That's the product.
it's the ghost version of your graphics card.
Exactly. It's like, can we have Loretta? No, we have Loretta at home.
Yeah, exactly. AliExpress, that's so good.
So, because it is just the spirit version of Loretta, which we'll be fighting way later in the run, it isn't very tanky. It's gonna start buffing now, or not buffing, but transitioning to phase 2, and during that time I can just finish it off. So finally, after like a gauntlet of pretty difficult fights, when it comes to all the early game stuff, capping with Radan, we now also chill a little bit and have this Loretta and Mimic. But then we have Gargoyles, which are super annoying, and Fierce Champions, and yeah. Fortunately, there's no like long runbacks, and generally I am not really gonna run into a situation where we would have a really hard time continuing the run. Unless like I lose runes at a terrible time, which hopefully shouldn't happen. But like, I don't really rely on sleep pods anymore until Godskin Duo. I don't really rely on any other consumables. Okay, so you cannot activate this elevator on the horse, but you can just activate it and then hop on the horse later and ride the elevator anyway. So here's Rani.
Thou must have, though I
I
haven't.
somehow jumped behind the books here.
I am the wit that I might well. I word a, but I require. I anticipate.
Okay.
Good. Art thou it left of go there.
So I need to basically get hired by her, and I'll be working for her now. Almost making it sound like a quest from GTA or something. Mission from GTA.
Which ending did you take in your casual playthrough, Kata?
Well, in my casual playthrough, I had... I think I took just the default one. So I only had that and Fia's ending available to me.
Oh, okay. I did Ronnie's entire quest line.
Yeah, that's a really... Yeah. That is a really, really cool ending. Big fan of it. Unfortunately, I did not get to finish that quest line casually.
I had to look up one or two things for that quest line.
Yeah, I basically I played without a guide, and then I made a save file at the very end when I was, standing at the statue.
Right.
And I went to get the other endings to see them as well, using help from my chat and a guide and stuff. But yeah, casually I had access to the regular default ending and to Fia's ending. Nice jump, dude.
When in doubt, quit out.
Yes, that is very, very true.
It's like every Dark Souls runner has pure muscle memory for quit outs. It's like, all right, and I'm back.
That is very true. The problem is when you start swapping between the games and they have different quit out inputs, then things can get quite confusing. All right, so here I'm going to get the Fingerslayer Blade, and as you can see, I performed a little skip there. Basically dropped on a piece of collision that allowed me to interrupt the fall damage, so I didn't just fall to my death. I'm gonna also quit out on this chest. Now, obviously, real time, it's faster to just open the chest. I mentioned this very early on in the first attempt, so if you're just joining us or if you haven't heard it, these runs are timed using the in-game time, meaning that all the load screens do not count towards the time, which means that no matter what PC you have, no matter what machine you have, no matter how long your load times are, you're always going to be able to be competitive. However, it does lead to certain scenarios where it's faster to just take the quit out into the main menu and return back to the game than watching the animation.
Not blood. Even in my, it is in my thanks soon must.
Give me this. So now I got the inverted statue, which will allow me to get the curse mark of death later on. However, right now I'm gonna go ahead and run to the Lake of Rot. So there are several ways to enter Lake of Rot. We're gonna be taking the portal here, because we are the closest to it, and the other one is in deeper depths, which would mean I would have to do +6 gargoyles, which would be awful. Like I said, gargoyles are already as bad as it is, even with +8. Fortunately though, if I die, they have a stake of Marika right next to them, so we can retry that fight really quickly. On the ending options, actually, I always introduce when I do these runs at marathons. I always introduce the option, the bid war for the endings.
That's smart.
And I always give 3 options. Yeah, I always give the Rani, the Frenzied Flame, and the I give Fias as well. But basically, outside of Rani's and Frenzied Flame, the other ones are just reskin of the same ending.
Right.
Fia hasn't won yet, unfortunately. I mean, unsurprisingly as well, because it's obviously the most boring ending. But so far it's been... so far it has been Frenzied Flame twice and Rani's once.
Which you did, obviously, SGDQ. This year.
That's right.
And you did a run at ESA Summer.
That is also correct. Yes, you are well informed,
I-
and I did one
I-
last week actually.
Oh, really? Was that at DreamHack?
Nah, it was at Hackathon.
Hackathon.
So Hackathon,
since
that was on the ESA channel as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Since speedrunning has become my job and interviewing for GDQ and everything, I try to stay as up to date as I possibly can about like what's going on and the runs that I'm interested in. So sometimes I know things, sometimes I know absolutely nothing.
Well, you're willing to learn. That's what matters.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, Hackathon was an event that we had. It was an on-site marathon, but it was mostly like it was primarily a gathering of friends alongside, some good cause charity work. So we were raising money for Save the Children.
Nice.
And it was in Cologne, Germany, at a very nice venue. There's basically like a arena there. And in the end, it ended up being a gathering of around 45 people. So it was a very, very cozy, small marathon.
Nice.
So I ran Pizza Swap All Remembrances there, which was the first time I had done that at a marathon, and it went well. I basically had to completely like guess the estimate since in-game time, doesn't correspond to RTA. And I guessed it at 90 minutes, and I finished in 129 with the extra ending shenanigans. So
that's always satisfying.
that was quite nice.
When you're right
Yep.
on the money on your estimate.
All right, so another quit out here to get rid of the enemy that's in front of me. And here I'm gonna get the +7, which is basically on the way. And then the +8 is a little bit of a detour, but a very small one compared to the ones that I would get in Kaled. There's also a +9 here, but the +9 takes a long time to get because you need to raise a bunch of the platforms here in Lake of Rot, and that takes a long time. All right, elevator, time to pop the Remembrance of Radans, and then I'll be jumping off the elevator early and trying to bow cancel. Like that. And now you have to do this run through anyway, because you need to go and fight Astel as he has a Remembrance. So I just do that run through early here so I can get the materials on the way. There's gonna be a neat little trick as well to ensure that I do not actually die to the rot in the Lake of Rot. But we'll get to that in a moment. Also, someone mentioned that Frenzied Flame is their favorite. I actually agree, that's my favorite ending as well. I do think that it's very cool visually, and I also like the fact that if you get the 3 fingers before you go to the forge, you get an extra cutscene with Melina, which I think is dope.
It is really nice that there's just I don't know, I'm a big fan of multiple endings in games, and I think Dark Souls does it in an interesting way where it doesn't really, there's no quote unquote true ending or whatever ever.
Yeah.
And so you're not worried about missing too much content with whatever ending you end up getting.
Pretty much, yeah. Okay, so here I'm gonna get as much rot as possible, and then I'm gonna get off the Lake of Rot and unequip my armor. And what this does is it basically, unequipping the armor reduces my resistances to rot. So because it's already built up past a certain value, it basically activates the rot immediately. And the reason I do this is because if I activate it off the Lake of Rot, so when I'm not standing in it, I'm taking quite a bit less damage right now. It's still based on maximum HP percentage, but this way I'll be able to just run through, out-heal it. Which is a really neat trick.
So your splits, obviously, you said earlier, weren't really lined up with the previous route. What's the point in the splits where you think it kind of converges and we can be okay, you are this far ahead?
Yeah. It converged after Radan, pretty much. Unfortunately, we had some memes there where I had to skip the Church of the Plague and Radan splits, but the pace that we are on is pretty accurate at the moment.
Nice.
All right, so here I'm gonna take this Grace so that I can come back later for Astel. And I'm also gonna rest here and level up. Now, I must make sure that I do not use all of my runes, because I don't have anything left right now. I would have nothing to upgrade with. So I'm gonna get 20 vigor here, and not more. I don't know why I stood up. I can just warp while seated. This is not Dark Souls, but that's okay. All right, we go road to the manor again to get to Ichi. Time loss on that split is basically because I didn't nuke my golds from when I wasn't getting the +8. I'm also gonna purchase this this talisman, which is available because I progressed Rani's questline, and it decreases the amount of FP, the focus points, the mana, that my spells, or my skills rather, use. And that way I'll be able to use the Golden Vow and then still do 4 Red Mains casts instead of just 3. Might come in handy later on. And now, basically, the goal is to run to Lanedale and then mountaintops, and the way to get to Lanedale is through the gargoyles, through the Valiant Gargoyles and through Fia's Champions, so we're gonna have to go through those fights. Gargs are usually pretty tricky. I'll be trying to stagger them with Red Mains, for which I will also equip my daggers, throwing knives, so that I can keep up the poise that I deal to them as they're trying to run away and stuff. And then I'll be trying to get headshots as I stagger them. Again, you saw the incredible damage that a headshot provided me with on Godric. That's basically what I'll be trying here as well. And if all things go well, I should be able to kill the first gargoyle before the second one comes in. But we'll see. As I mentioned before, there's a big enough leeway that like I can die several times and still be on PB pace. So
I have massive faith in Catalyst. I'm team belief.
Buff up, replenish FP. Should probably also equip this when I already bought it. Okay, that Red Mains hit, that was very cool. That also hits, was less cool. Stagger now. Headshot, 1. Phase transition. Kill. Okay, dude is chilling, so I'm gonna rebuff and replenish my FP again. Ah! Come on. It didn't queue up my R2 properly, so I didn't get a headshot there. There we go.
Nice.
So this is actually, funnily enough, this is one thing that they, at least according to the patch notes, I haven't really done much testing on 1.07 myself yet, but the patch that was released earlier this week, they mentioned that they fixed some action queuing problems when you're like moving and toggling and two-handing and stuff like that. And that is basically what I ran into there. You have to queue up your next action quite late after you, if you're moving and like you two-hand, for example, you have to basically press the R2 very much at the end of the animation or it's not gonna get queued up. And that's what happened to me there. Like I thought I already, you know, I pressed the R2, I thought I was gonna get the attack, and then all of a sudden I just kept on walking forward so I didn't get the headshots, but that was pretty alright. So now we're gonna head over to Fia's Champions. Fia's Champions are of course super annoying because any boss fight that is based on an NPC is always super annoying. Because they roll around and yeah, it's no good. Only I can roll around.
Only you're allowed.
When the enemies do it, it's no good, yes. It's not fair when the enemies do it. Only when I do it.
That's right. That's how I feel like anytime an enemy in a Dark Souls game or Elden Ring or whatever uses an Estus flask. I'm like, no. This is my thing. You're not allowed to heal. That's not part of your thing.
Exactly. Good thing about this game is that they just have like one charge, so they heal once.
And then they try to use it, again. And they're like, oh, it's empty. What the heck?
Exactly.
I'm like, idiot, you're dumb, I've got this.
Alright, so I rest here to replenish my resources, my potions and my physic. And for this fight, I'll be using the summon. That basically I got it only for this fight, but it basically costs no time, and it's gonna hopefully help a lot with phase 3, where the goal is to kill the axe guy quickly and then have the wolves distract Lionel while I go and kill the last enemy. Also, I guess what I can do is I can use the Exalted Flesh that I picked up earlier. The Exalted Flesh boosts my damage by 20%, and with +8, normally I wouldn't one-shot these guys. But with Exalted Flesh, this is a one-shot, so that's good. Get him, boys. All right. Last wave now. I'm gonna rebuff. And hopefully I'll be able to get the axe guy here at the start really quickly. It's good. Let's get this guy now. He's isolated. Whoa! Lionel needs to chill. Alright, I'm gonna wait for them to re-aggro. Okay, this is gonna be a bit tricky now, because wolves are gone. Okay. And now it's just one-on-one. Nice roll catch. Let me heal up. Bait an attack. Skulls, charge him. And now I'm gonna try to spam crouch R1s. Alright, well,
wrecked.
Not the best fight, but Lionel got wrecked pretty nicely there at the end, so... That's sort of the strat that you basically go for. You try to do a charge R1, or a running R1, I should say, as you bait an attack, and then after that, you basically just queue up crouch R1s again, which is like the fastest way to get at least one hit in. And if you're lucky enough, you keep on just stun knocking him, essentially. He might roll out of the loop, and then you have to kind of reset, you know, bait out an attack again, but it worked out well this time. So here, I need to, again, replenish my resources before the next fights. If I, however, sat down here, Melina would show up, because she's scripted to show up when you arrive to Leyndell. Also, this is the one little skip that is made much more difficult in 1.06. Just this little jump. And that's one of the primary reasons why I'm not on 1.06 or 1.07. It doesn't save that much time, it's like 8 seconds, but there's just no reason to make it any more difficult. What they ended up doing is they basically made the platform that I landed on, the ground that I landed on, a slope, so you slide down. However, it is still possible to like land on the corner, essentially, and then have your fall damage counter be interrupted and fall on the roof, on the circular roof underneath. Here I heal up and quit out to get rid of the Erdtree avatar. And yeah, as I was saying, Melina is scripted to show up at the next rest here. But if I do that little trick where I light the grace and then warp during the lighting, or the pivots before the lighting, I'm able to replenish my resources and not trigger Melina. Here I'm gonna do another quit out, again to reset this archer so he doesn't bother me. Plus additionally, of course, if you're not in combat, you actually do not use any stamina, so this way I'll just be able to hop here all the time. A I'll bow cancel here, climb up the ladder. I'm gonna get around these two enemies, and then onwards to Spirit Godfrey. Spirit Godfrey is an interesting fight, right? Because you would think that it's basically just Godfrey, except, again, like from AliExpress. But the thing is, it's actually quite different. He doesn't follow up his attacks as much as regular Godfrey does. And that's kind of bad, because you can get charge R2s if you strafe some of the follow-ups. So the fight is a little bit tricky, because the follow-up can, or it may also not happen, so you have to kind of be vigilant and adjust accordingly. And of course, I still do not have much health, so like I'll get wrecked pretty easily. I can get hit once and survive, but if I get hit twice, it's probably going to be bad. A lot also depends on the opener. If I get an axe throwing opener, I might be able to get 2 charge R2s in, which would be really nice. What I'll also do here is I'll quit out again, because I have enemies chasing me and they can destroy me while I'm buffing up before the fight. Right, any axe throwers? No? Okay. Well, he actually did do 2 of the follow-ups this time, so that was really nice. Allowed me to have a pretty good fight there. So now onwards to Morgoth. Morgoth, if I can stagger Morgoth at the beginning, it's gonna be a very straightforward fight, very cool fight. I'll basically, like, the damage should work out perfectly, where I'm able to stagger him. Or rather, I'm able to deal enough damage that he starts doing AoE, then I'm able to stagger him before he finishes the AoE cast. And then, because I have +8 and not +9, I'm gonna have to deal with a little bit of phase 2 at the end. But that is all only if I can actually stagger him at the beginning, and that is the trickiest part. So we'll see how it goes.
Man, this game rocks. I just like, this was one of my favorite areas, and I'm enjoying seeing it.
I agree, Lindell was great. All right. Oh, I missed. That's unfortunate. But this is a strafeable attack, so I'll stagger him like this. Riposte and 2 charge R2s into an R1. See, he goes for the AoE, but the R1 is gonna stagger him. Stamina regen, another riposte. 2 more charge R2s, he's gonna get into phase 2 like this. And now I have to wait for the explosion. And 1 more charge R2 and he's dead. Beautiful. One thing that annoyed me casually is, like, I was unfortunately quite over-leveled for Lindell, so like killing Morgoth, for example, didn't take that long. And he was kind of a pushover. I already had a lot of flask charges and stuff, right? So I could take a lot of damage and just heal up. Alright, so now we rest here because we are trapped. So we need to rest, get the rolled medallion to be able to use the elevator. Yes, the thorns are impenetrable. Yada yada. But first, I'm gonna level up. I'm gonna level some vigor, 32 in fact, and then go back to the first grace that we took. I got more time loss on this split. That's due to the fact that with the +9 route, I was able to basically completely bypass the second phase. And with +8, that is not possible. Damn. 0 bow cancels. It was bad, man. Alright, big doors. That's another quit out. Another problem I had, and that was like my, my particular playthrough, was that because I found Raya and I progressed her questline in Liurnia, I was able to get to Mount Gelmir and Volcano Manor before I even did Caelid. So even for Caelid, I was very overleveled, and there's a lot of questlines that have a step or start in Caelid, and then they actually proceed to Mount Gelmir, but I had already been done with that area, so I obviously wasn't gonna come back, so I never actually found those quest lines. This is a conversation we've had a bunch of times on my stream, that actually it's kind of weird to call what, you have in these games quest lines. They're more like actual just storylines, really, because they do not act as regular quests as we've come to know them in video games. You're there a lot more to just sort of observe whatever is happening, and if you're not there, well, nothing happens, right? Like the world still progresses
right.
even without you. You're not the kind of the centerpiece. It's not your typical find NPC, have a little story, get rewarded at the end. It works very differently. All right, so now we're gonna have a bunch more running. Like I said, the goal is to go to the mountaintops right now, which, truth be told, this is sort of where the game dipped for me in quality. I was really enjoying the game until the end of Leyndell, and then mountaintops and the snowfields. Just, I don't know, it was just too big, too empty.
Yeah, I didn't
really like it that much.
I'm a bit of a pushover for snow levels, so I have that. It has that going for me. But I definitely didn't enjoy it as much as some of the other areas. And I think Dark Souls does... Like, Elden Ring obviously has this wide open nature where, like, there are a lot of great design decisions and bosses you fight in open areas. But I think Dark Souls shines in the smaller areas, like Leyndell, which is more... Like, it feels big, but it's all tight corners and tight corridors and, like, semi-open bridgeways or whatever, right? And, like...
Absolutely.
Dark Souls' strongest moments, like the Undead Burg or like, areas like that are like, in my opinion, the strongest stuff. So I don't know. Elden Ring does sort of tango with this, like, there's too much space sometimes.
Yeah, I think that even with that all open space, like, for example, Limgrave is my favorite overworld. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really good.
Oh, yeah, it rocks.
I think, yeah, like, even Liurnia is fine. I just feel that once you get to mountaintops, it just becomes a bit too big, and essentially at that point at least I had seen enough of the side content when it comes to, like, the dungeons, that are the catacombs and stuff that are kind of similar all the time. And so I have I have less incentive to explore at that point, and I was just sort of feeling like the game was a bit too long in general after Leyndell.
Yeah.
But still a brilliant game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not...
This is my game of the year this year, no question.
Alright, so here I'll have to come back to this elevator later, once I pick up the 2 pieces of the Halictree medallion, so I'm gonna take this grace as well. I'm gonna quit out because I'm in combat, so this way I'll be able to warp. And now I'm gonna head over to the Albinauric village, and that's where I get one part of the medallion. So this is where the Temple Quarter Grace comes into play. As you can see, menuing obviously needs a lot of work, but this is like the last thing that I will worry about when it comes to optimizing this run. So we're gonna run south. And another nice thing about the Albinauric village is there's a lot of lilies and mushrooms. So if you do not have enough lilies and mushrooms at this point to get your sleep pods for Godskin Duo, you can collect all of them here. So that is pretty neat.
So we spoke about this briefly when I interviewed you at SGDQ, but I'm curious to get a little more insight as to like why you chose the things you chose. So what are your favorite and least favorite bosses in this game, and you know, how would you relate those decisions to your favorite and least favorite bosses in other Dark Souls games?
That's actually a really well posed question, because my favorite bosses basically are determined sort of by, you know, my preference for Dark Souls 1. Like, I like the Dark Souls 1 combats. That's my favorite way of playing, when it's a little bit slower paced,
Yeah.
but every single attack has a lot of weight behind it. I understand that it's actually the minority. Like, you know, they catered to fast-styled gameplay with DS3 and Bloodborne and stuff for a good reason, and they're brilliant games. But I just like the slower pace, and because of that, some of my favorite bosses are bosses like Mog or Godfrey or you know, even Radagon, who does have a bunch of, you know, DS3 style anime combos, but still has a lot of attacks that are slower and just deal a lot of damage once they hit you.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, my final or my favorite boss in this game, no question, is Horaloo. Just like I love Dark Souls 1, and I do really enjoy that slower pace. But my first Souls game was Bloodborne, and so I think whichever one was your first does color your perception a little bit. And for me, that faster paced gameplay does cater to me a little bit, but I do really enjoy the Dark Souls type, you know, Dark Souls 1 type pace. And I think that Horaloo kind of combines both in an interesting way, but definitely is a faster boss for sure.
Yeah, I think you make great points there. I cannot disagree. All right, so Astel now. Astel is going to be interesting. Basically, I'm again going to be abusing Flame of the Redmanes to hopefully stagger him at the correct times. The damage is specifically calculated, so I do not get him too low after the first cycle, so he doesn't immediately teleport away. That's basically the main thing that I'm trying to prevent here, is him teleporting away. That would be a disaster. Interesting 2-orb opening. That doesn't really happen usually. Yeah, I'm just gonna let myself get hit by that.
I hated this boss.
Yeah, same. So I missed the headshot there because I ended up being too far behind. Which means I'm not gonna be able to one-cycle him, so he is gonna teleport away. But yeah, I'm trying to go for this headshot here. That's okay. I'll just have to deal with the meteors. But if I got that headshot, I would have been able to get these two and then just to jump R2 to finish him off. Nice. One last, of course. There we go.
Nice.
Okay, so it took an extra cycle, but not a big deal. So now we go back to the mountaintops as well. So I totally agree. I hated Astel a lot. I never found this guy, right? That's why I didn't finish Rani's questline, because I never actually found this Astel. I only found the one in the snowfield, so the stronger one. And I do like the design. I like visually he looks a lot.
I just,
there are a lot of problems.
There are a lot that I did not like that boss fight. Either time, I did not enjoy it. I was kind of okay with like the ethereal antelope thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hate that one, but I really disliked the Astel.
So my biggest problem with Astel was his AoE attacks, the ones that, you know, I basically let myself get hit by, because it looks like you can jump them, you cannot. It looks like you should be able to roll them, but you cannot unless you are light rolling, right? Like, unless you are light rolling and so you have less recovery on your roll, you are unable to actually roll them. You will always get hit by one of the ticks, so it is very annoying. Like, that's usually my biggest problems with some of these fights, is how unintuitive some of the attacks can be. Like, the Deathbird here in the mountaintops is another great example where his AoE is just insane. Like, it has insane tracking, it's not intuitive on how to dodge it at all, and it's essentially just trial and error, right? Like, you're not... Like, I'm not saying you should be able to roll and dodge everything first try, like, totally not. Some trial and error needs to be present, but you should also at least have, like, an idea of how to actually dodge that attack. And if Astel, you know, makes it seem like you can jump some of those attacks, but that you can't, it's just kind of confusing, and I don't like that.
Yeah, there is... I definitely agree on the sense of, like, a lot of your favorite bosses and a lot of my favorite bosses are the ones that, like, their attacks might not be ultra telegraphed, but, like, they're swinging a hand or swinging a sword, and it's clear, like, okay, here comes the hurt box, I will roll now. And the window might be tight, but as you learn, like, you are rewarded for playing well. Whereas attacks like that are unintuitive and AoE, I often dislike, because I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll just get hit to this. Like, exactly. I just decide, all right, I'll heal and hope for the best.
All right, so here in the mountaintops, there are, again, like, more routing possibilities. I could technically do Fire Giant early if I had, you know, if I had Exalted Flesh or Flame got me Strength. There's a way to kill Fire Giant pretty well, and then get +9 in Fire Missoula. But what I do for this routing here is actually I'm gonna go fight Niol, and that's gonna give me the second part of the Halleck Tree Medallion, and I'll be able to go to the Snowfield and thus to the Mogwin Palace and get +9, +10 there. So Niol is a very cool fight. I mean, annoying, especially at the beginning when there's a minion alongside the boss, so let's hope for the best. But we have a Grace right here, so let's hope that it's gonna be fine. Also, instead of just getting to his castle normally, there's a cool little skip that I can do here. But first I need to take this Grace, because later on I'll be running to the Fire Giant from here. So get this Grace. So I saw someone asking about time saves. I don't know where they are, but you can see that my best possible time is like 6 minutes ahead. So there are still a lot of time saves potentially, yeah. So I land on the top of that tree, and then I need to land on this battlement, otherwise the fall is gonna be too high and I'll die. But this way I can get to Castle Sol really quickly.
All right, fall damage in Elden Ring is stupid. I'll say it. It's dumb.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's like there are 50 feet where you take no damage, and then there's 10 feet where you take variable damage, and then you die. And it's like, all right, cool. It felt like every time I jumped, the game just flipped a coin.
It is, again, yeah, the lack of intuitiveness is there. But I'll talk about full damage in a bit. Right now, I need to talk about the damage I deal to these enemies. So I want to get charged by this guy. There we go. Charge R2 and the regular R2 should be enough for the kill. Beautiful. He's going to start buffing. I'm going to use red mains here. 1, 2, wait for him to stomp. Red mains 3, that should stagger. Jump attack, riposte. I'm going to do charge R2 and then run away because he's going to be transitioning. Rebuff in the meantime. 2 charge R2s. Next one is gonna stagger, so I'm gonna wait for full stamina. Stagger. Backstab. And now the rest of the fight I have to kind of deal with whatever he does. There we go. All right, very nice, Neil.
Nice.
Cool. I like this fight a lot. When I started practicing it, I was like, this fight is total BS, but and it is. With the minion at the start, it really is. But once you fight him, I do like his attacks quite a bit.
That was probably one of like Melania was definitely the fight I spent the most time on, but that was probably the fight I spent the second most time on in my casual playthrough.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. See, there's your first big time save, to whoever was wondering. So I didn't have that many troubles with Neol, but that's because I was still on 1.02 and I had the Hoarfrost Stomp, which was super imbalanced and super OP on that patch, so...
Yeah,
I basically just stomped him to death.
I mean, I definitely fought him either launch week or the week after, so I was on 102, but I didn't use Hoarfrost Stomp. This is a dumb rule, but it's been fun so far. I started playing Dark Souls in 2020. This was the first time I played Dark Souls. And for Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, and for Elden Ring, my rule was I'm going to play with just the starting, like, longsword or broadsword or whatever for as long as possible. Because I was like, I'm a knight, and this is my sword. So, like, I obviously upgrade it. But with just that, some of the fights were kind of hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, shout outs to you, though, for sticking to the roleplay portion of the game. I respect it.
I mean, ultimately, almost any weapon is good if you upgrade it to, like, plus 15 in this game.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it was, it wasn't that hard, but it was fun.
It's actually funny, because I used Uchigatana for, like, most of my playthrough. But I didn't start as samurai, I started as prisoner, and I initially wanted to do like a kasta / melee kind of hybrid thing. And then I found the Uchi and I went with Uchi, and I didn't even realize that it's one of the starting weapons as well. And then I kind of had to ditch the sorcery stuff, because it was just, the hybrid didn't really work. Needed to be one or the other. I still leveled a bunch of int, however, because I had Frost on my Uchi, and then I also, like in the late game, I used the Moonwell, power stance, so I had Twin Blades. And at some point, the dexterity scaling would just be sort of redundant, so having some extra int levels also gave me more damage. So this is the snowfields. This area is a little bit better than the mountaintops. There's more stuff to do, but it's still crap. And I'm going to be running towards Mogwin Palace. I'm not exactly sure about the pathing I have to do here. I might get hit by this dude. That has happened to me before. Yeah, but it's fine. So this is another thing that I need to figure out properly, but it's not a big deal at the moment. The problem is that if I go too far north, I'm gonna trigger Anastasia and lose my horse. And of course, if I go further west, then that's just getting out of the way. So I need to figure out some better way of doing that, but there's bigger problems to solve first. So here, I spawned the Sanguine Noble, and fighting NPCs, as we saw with Fias Champs, is awful. So instead, I'm gonna use a different way of getting rid of him. And hopefully he cooperates. I also need to heal, otherwise I'll die. He should be coming. He is coming. Plop. And he's gone. So that Sanguine Noble, killing him allows me to activate this portal and get to Mogwin Palace. Very nice.
I've always loved how, like, midway through long Dark Souls speedruns, it's just like, yeah, I have 300,000 souls, but I don't really want to do anything with them.
Yeah, it's basically one more level up that I'll be doing. At the end of the run, I'll probably, unless I lose the rune somewhere, I'll probably end up with like 1.5 million that I have on my bank account that I'm not really spending on anything. Because it would just take time to level up, because in this game you just do not really have to rest that much. So here I get the +9, and then another cool little skip here. instead of running around the Mogwin Palace, I'm able to get to the top of the mausoleum quicker by abusing some very handily placed geometry. But first I need to quit out because there's the skeletal guy spawning behind me. Alright, very nice. Now can traverse on top of the palace here, which is really good because you lose the horse if you just go the regular path. Then make the jump over here. And we are on top of the mausoleum. Jump around these dudes. And yeah, now I'm gonna get plus 10, so finally Serpent Hunter will be back to full power. Or not back, but will be upgraded to full power. And I'll start cleaning up some of the bosses. I'll start with Mog, because he gives a lot of runes. I basically am trying to get the runes that I can before I go to Fire Giant, so that I have as many runes as possible when I'm going to be leveling up there. Because like I said, there's one more level up basically left, since you need to rest at the forge to talk to Melina. So that's when I level up. Again, in case you missed me explaining it at the beginning of the run, I'm just jumping when I'm running uphill. It's a little bit faster. Of course, if I'm outside of combat, otherwise it would be depleting stamina and it wouldn't be worth it. So now, getting this plus 10 can be tricky sometimes, but we have a Grace right here, so it's no problem. I'll be baiting this Sanguine Noble from around here. Alright, it dropped. Now a little switcheroo. He's stuck down there. Get the Sombra Ancient Smithing Stone. Quit out, please, sir. And Heist of the Century right there. And now we'll go to Ichi to upgrade. So let's roll to the manor. This is the second manual split of the run. Can't forget. Yeah, let's just get stuck on a rock. That works too. Plus 10. And now back to the mausoleum. So here, the mock fight is going to be pretty cool, hopefully. I'll be trying to get headshots on him again. I'll start by using red mains to stagger him, that I'll probably get some charge R2s after the riposte. He's going to be transitioning kind of to like phase 1.5-ish. What I also need to make sure to equip is throwing knives and the kukri. This allows me to keep up the poise on him. And the 2 throwing knives I'll be throwing are actually also going to help build it up slightly. And the goal is basically to get him to a point where I can skip phase 2. Like, get enough damage in before I allow him to transition. So that didn't reach. Okay, try to get a headshot. Got it. Into a riposte. Now I'm gonna do 2 charge R2s. 1, 2, rebuff. Need these 2 throwing knives. This should stagger. Get another headshot. Okay, I missed, but that should be no problem. I have enough damage to be able to miss 1 headshot and still get the second phase skip. And 1 more charge R2. And he's dead. Very nice.
Nice.
I do the same thing that I did on Godric. I do on him, because he has a death dialogue. But as long as I stay within the area, when I, when I quit out after killing him, I'm still gonna get the kill, as you could hear there. So yeah, no nihil. Sorry about that, guys. And now basically what I'm doing is sort of a, like I said, a cleanup before Fire Giants. So we're gonna go and kill the Ancestor Spirit first. for which I need to light up the remaining fireplaces here. You already got some of them on the first run through Nokron. And then I'm gonna go to the academy. I'm gonna quit out here because the rats could block me. And I can actually quit out in such a way that I don't get a stand-up. And on top of that, if you stand on the fireplace itself, it doesn't store your position. So you saw it actually spawn me a little bit backwards, which is the direction I need to go to anyway. So I basically lose no time. In fact, I'm actually saving time and getting rid of the rats there with that quit out. Very neat. Okay, that's the last fireplace.
I would love if we could get another shout out in chat for Catalyst here. Gamers, again, please do follow Catalyst if you're not already. He streams a ton and it's all super awesome Elden Ring and Dark Souls speedrunning and stuff like that. Please do give him a follow. And ideally, if the shout out works out, there should just be a button at the top of the chat and you can just click it. You don't even have to click a link, nothing. Twitch made a good feature? No way. You just click a button. It's so good.
Alright, so for this guy, I'm gonna use red mains 3 times. But let's see what RNG okay, that missed. That's fine. I should be able to stagger here. And now, again, I'm trying to get a headshot here for massive damage. Like that. And that's the Ancestor Spirit. Thank you again for the kind words and the kind shout-out.
Yeah, of course.
And thank you for having me on the show, by the way. Of course, I'm sure we'll get to that again, but it's much appreciated. It's an honor.
I'm always looking to highlight and showcase people whose stuff I really enjoy and people whose content I really respect. So you're putting on a great show.
Well, I'm glad I didn't reset to Radan again the second run, so that was good. Alright, this boss is kind of annoying. Like, he's a paper, but he can troll quite a bit. Not this time, though. He opened up with the wrench attack, which I had to dodge and wait for, but overall, that was pretty smooth. So yeah, I have the Serpent Hunter plus 10. I have quite a bit of strength. I'm at 47 plus Golden Bow gives me 10. So I do have quite a bit of power, and this boss already is very, very weak when it comes to his health points, and obviously this way I'm destroying him even more. Renala is gonna be kind of similar. But first I have to deal with Moongrum, which is never fun. Which is this Carrion Knight here. So hopefully he doesn't board the elevator with me. Okay, we're good. He certainly tried though. Well, but he failed. Need to drop that shield because it's kind of in the way if I'm swapping from the dagger to the bow and stuff. So for Renala, I'll be using the bow in phase 1 to clear up the students. You don't actually have to kill them to get rid of the charge, you just need to hit them with anything. So even a bow that deals no damage, basically, is going to be good enough. Nice books. Buff up fully. Wait for Renala to come down. And for phase 2, let's see what RNG I get. Lately, I've had kind of memes here, but I'll try to like attack her in such a way that the R2 here hits as late as possible. So I have as much time. Perfect, dude. That was actually great. So this way I have as much time as possible to finish up my second charge R2 and just two-shot her like that. So that was really, really nice. It's really important to basically go slightly behind her and hit her so that basically you only connect with her because you only connect with her at the end of the charge R2 animation, because as soon as you damage her, she basically, you interrupt that attack that she's doing. And if she decides to fly away like this, if you didn't do that strat, she would fly away before you hitting her, so that's some important stuff right there. Unfortunately, it went well. So now I'm running to get the curse mark of death, which means I have to run all the way through here. There's an idea that I had. Getting one of the graces near the purified runes, there's like a little drop that you can do to get to the Carrion study hall. I need to time whether that's faster though, because obviously like it will be faster not having to run all the way from here, but you also have to get that extra grace, so it might not actually be quicker. And of course, the reason I'm getting this is basically because I need to get to 40 sacks, who has a remembrance, and this item is necessary for that. And I'm getting it now because after this, I'll be running to Fire Giant and then basically going through the entirety of Fire Missoula, and then also through Gideon and Godfrey. And that's really like the only time that I want to rest in between. So I want to have the curse mark already, because I'll be killing 40 sacks afterwards. But that's still kind of far away, so we'll see how everything else goes. This area can be kind of memey sometimes as well when it comes to the collision here. And also Preceptor Miriam sniping me. Nice bow cancel. Drop on this first chandelier. Oh, I got the mini jump because I jumped too soon after the stagger. So I got like no momentum there for that jump. Try this again. And bullseye. Ah! I got it. Insane bottom landing.
When I came here without the item that inverts the place, I made it to the top and tried to figure out how to lower this for like 20 minutes. And then I was like, I'll just leave. And then I obviously came back later and inverted the place.
Yeah, I kind of figured that that must be something to do later. So I didn't spend as much time trying to figure out what to do with the area. What I did spend a lot of time with was Preceptor herself. Like, I was under-leveled when I went there, and I was getting my ass handed to me, and it was awful. And then I almost had her at the top floor, and I have the, like, you know, there's a pretty famous clip on my Twitter that went pretty viral where I almost had her. She was almost dead. I went to backstab her and she teleported at the same time, and because I was backstabbing her, it teleported me to the middle of the tower and I just fell to my death, and I was like, no way.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It was a sad state of affairs, as Gideon would say, but also hilarious, so.
Is this our, have we done any of these massive elevators yet? I can't remember.
No, this is the first one.
Perfect.
First and only.
Oh, only
it's a great
one.
opportunity. Yeah, it's a great opportunity to pop all these remembrances that I have. It's the only one because I, like in rune level 1 that I used to do, in order to be able to use all the items and stuff, you needed to activate Godric's rune, but you don't need to do that in this run because you have so much damage because of the, you know, extra stats that you can level up. Rune level 1 obviously being a run where you start as Verge, so you're at rune level 1 and then you never level anything. Okay, so now Fire Giant. Fire Giant can be quite memey as well. There's a lot of things that are at play at the same time. Essentially, there's like a really good way of getting the fight in. However, if I do it too well and I get all the sweet spot hits, it's going to be too much damage. Because I basically need to align killing him in phase 1, or like finishing phase 1, along with having enough poise build up. And if I end the first phase too early, there's not going to be enough phase for the, poise for the second phase, and I'm not going to be able to stagger him easily. So yeah, there's quite a bit of memes at play, and we'll see how it goes. But, I mean, worst case scenario, again, there's a Grace right next to his fight, so I'll be taking that one. I like the Giants roll. Well, the goal of this strategy is to basically... Hello, Beetle. Nice body block. The goal of this strategy is to prevent him from rolling whatsoever. But we'll see. Yeah, more running around. It's exactly why I just dislike mountaintop so much. Kills the pacing. I understand that, I mean, it's mountaintops of the Giants, so there needs to be a big area, but like, come on, Miyazaki. Why you gotta do us dirty like this?
It is really pretty, though. I mean...
I disagree. You're a big fan of snow?
I am. I'm a big fan of snow.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm the opposite.
But also the view of the Erd tree from here is really cool, too.
That is true, I guess, yeah. Also, what I found interesting, I didn't even realize, I only found out about this when I was recording some footage for one of my recent videos. You can see the Forge of the Giants all the way from Limgrave. That's kind of funny. Like you can see the mountaintops and the Forge as well.
I love being able to see things from a distance. That's probably my favorite environmental thing in video games.
Yeah, FromSoft do such a great job at that.
They really do.
Alright, so after getting this Grace, the faster way to enter the fight instead of going left is actually to do a little parkour here. So I'll jump up these rocks. Then I'll begin the fight by buffing up. He might open with AoE. If he does, I'll try to jump over it. And then, yeah, like I was saying, I'll try to... I don't know why I summoned the horse. Jump off. There we go. I'll try to line up the damage in phase 1 along with having enough poise so I can stagger him on time in phase 2. So here I need to make sure that at least one, there we go, one of the hits isn't into the sweet spot, otherwise it will be too much damage. Now I'm gonna rebuff entering phase 2. And I have to attack early enough to ensure that I keep up his poise. That is gonna stagger, and now I'm gonna go for the eye as that's the weak spot in phase 2. 1, 2, he's left with a little bit of HP. And he's dead.
Nice.
Awesome. Really good fight. So, no rolling. Whoever said that they liked the rolls, my apologies, but also not really, because the rolls are annoying. But that worked out really, really well. There's still a bit more labbing that I need to do on that fight. I feel like there's a way where I could probably get enough damage in like phase 1 somehow to be able to kill him just with 2 charge R2s to the eye. Like I've been able to do that before, so there must be some kind of constellation of attacks and sweet spot hits and stuff that take him a little bit lower, but yeah, again, not really the most urgent thing to figure out. So here, I'm gonna do the last level up. I need to make sure I'm gonna get 36 vigor, and then I need to make sure to get dexterity and 66 strength. So this is really interesting. You might be wondering why I'm leveling dexterity when I'm using a strength weapon, right? Well, the Serpent Hunter actually has an E scaling in dexterity, and this plays a pivotal role in 2 fights. The scaling is awful, obviously, and just 2 levels of dex shouldn't do much, but they do just enough that allow me to basically skip certain attacks in the Godskin Duo fight and also on Elden Beast. So First, I'm gonna craft my pots. And basically, there's a strat for Godskin Duo where I can kill them in just 2. Basically, in 1 cycle is what I call it. However, it required using 2 throwing knives, which meant I needed to hit the 2 throwing knives before the fight, because there's no time to get them while they're staggered and stuff like that. However, with 17 dexterity, I only need 1 throwing knife. And for 1 throwing knife, there's enough time to throw it and hit the enemy even during the actual fight while I'm fighting them. So that's gonna be neat if it works out. However, this is also where I reset my last attempt yesterday on Godskin Duo, so hopefully it doesn't happen again. Because it's not really them that are the problem, but it's the geometry in that arena. Essentially, I need to be riposting, but you cannot really ripost an enemy if he's like weirdly on the stairs, or yesterday he just sat on pots that are there on the stairs, and as such he was much higher than I was. His position was way elevated, and I was unable to get the proper fight. Here, running through Azula, you're gonna see a couple of quit outs. You've already seen a few. And bow cancels as well, because there are some big drops here. The quit outs, you know, the second one there, for example, was to reset the dragon and thus be out of combat for a little bit longer. Okay, get around these enemies. Another quit out here is, again, to reset enemies, get out of combat. Combat means that stamina is being used. No combat means no stamina being used, which is absolutely great. Jump over, another bow cancel here. Then instead of trying to time a bow cancel on this uneven surface, I'm just gonna quit out while landing. And this is a place where, again, I don't have a stand-up after a quit out, so saves time. And I'm gonna get the Grace before Godskin, just in case something goes awry. It's a good idea to have it. One last bow cancel here. And then I'm gonna need to reorganize my inventory slightly. So I need to put the dagger there, but I also need to swap it with the Serpent Hunter, if the game let me. Swap it with the Serpent Hunter like this. Okay, let's get around this enemy. And then I'm gonna equip the pots, and I'm gonna try to time the pots to basically put them to sleep as they're spawning. Okay, now we're gonna buff up, and I'm gonna do a very specific sequence of attacks. I forgot to put down the throwing knife here. Oh, I didn't get a riposte there. That's unfortunate. Almost, though. Alright, so let me focus on the rest of this fight, then I'll talk about it a little bit. So what I was going for there is essentially you can hit these enemies as they're dying, right? That's the basic premise of this entire fight. You can hit enemies when they're dying and still deal damage to them. And because they have a cumulative health bar, I can be damaging the cumulative health bar, even though the individual noble or, you know, apostle are already dead. Now, the setup that I was trying to go for would allow me to deal just enough damage, basically on both of them, before killing them, and then hitting them as much as possible once they are dead. And I would get so much overboard damage, so much overkill, that I would be able to just kill them in the one cycle, just on the first 2 Godskins. However, after I threw the throwing knife, I was unable to get the riposte. I don't know if I riposted too late. I don't know if there were some elevation memes. I don't really know what happened. But I didn't get the riposte on the Godskin Noble, the first bad guy. Which also meant I couldn't finish with 2 charge R2s afterwards, but only 1. Which meant I was missing quite a bit of damage at the end. However, you still saw me do that neat setup on Godskin Apostle, the second bad guy, where I do 2 charge R2s two-handed, then a charge R2 one-handed, and that is just enough damage to basically leave him at like 10 HP or whatever. And then I riposte, and after the riposte, or rather, I should say backstab, after the backstab, I'm able to do 2 more charge R2s, which is the max overkill that I can get. This setup took a long time to lab out. It was a lot of testing that we did, but it resulted in a really neat fight with the 17 dexterity level up. Unfortunately, that one riposte I didn't get, but overall it was still fine. Like the strat itself, getting the 1 cycle saves like 8 seconds or whatever, right? So it's not the biggest time loss in the world if you don't get it. So now I'm running through Azula. You saw me abuse quit outs a bunch again because that bridge with the birds is really annoying. I also did a little bit of some parkour there and some specific pathing to avoid the lightning. And now I'm gonna head over to the Grace here, besides the Braid Bridge. And then we're gonna head over to Placidusax. Placidusax is also a very tricky fight. He has several phases. And depending on the RNG that I get and how well I do, I should be able to skip the 4th one. With really good RNG, I might even be able to skip the 3rd one, but yeah, we'll see what happens. It's a pretty execution-heavy fight with RNG in it as well. I'll be trying out Banjo Bow cancels here, canceling the landing animations, but these ones are really problematic because you're jumping from uneven ground and landing on uneven ground, so it's usually very difficult to get them consistently. This one I usually get because there's flat ground here. So I'm gonna open up the fight with a specific sequence where I'm trying to essentially get him as low as possible without having Placidusax start transitioning into the 2nd phase yet. And then again, kind of similarly as on Godskin Duo, I'll be trying to get as much overkill before he transitions as possible. But first I will buff up. I'll also tank lightning, so if I get hit by lightning here at the start, don't get scared, that's accounted for. Headshots, extra damage, riposte. And he's gonna be transitioning now, and that allows me to get 2 more charge R2s in. Like this. Heal up. Rebuff. Replenish FP. Okay, I might actually be able to kill him here. That is insane. That's like the perfect fight. I haven't gotten that in a run yet. Damn, that was amazing. Yeah, so I was able to stagger him before he transitioned from phase 2. Oh, I just rested by accident. I managed to stagger him before he transitioned from phase 2 to phase 3, where he flies away, and I was able to finish him off. That was very, very good. So for Maliketh, I'm gonna buff up in the fight and hope that he runs at me. And I'm again gonna abuse Flame of the Redmanes and the fact that Poise carries over from phase 1 to phase 2. If I can get him staggered in phase 1, the fight should be pretty good afterwards, but we'll see. Any runners? Yeah, that's what I like to see. Redmanes bait out an attack. Second Redmanes, charge R2, riposte, and now I'm gonna do another charge R2 and a regular R2, which is gonna finish off phase 1. Phase 2 starts, I go backwards to bait out a specific attack, dodge it, charge R2 into a stagger, another one to deal damage, riposte, and one more charge R2 for the finish. Lop. Beautiful.
Maliketh was also a great fight. I loved this fight.
Only phase 2 for me, though. I hated the Clergy Beastman a lot. Because he, like, as a melee, he animation cancels a lot. And basically, it's somewhat difficult to punish him sometimes, so sure. I really didn't enjoy the Beast Clergyman, but Maliketh phase 2 was really, really good, yeah. Someone asked what poise is. That's a great question if you're not familiar with the game's mechanics. Poise is essentially a stability property of an enemy, or even yours. And if you deplete poise, you get a stagger on the enemy. So think about it, you know, in Sekiro, the stamina bar is literally visible. That's what you would call poise. So each attack that I deal to an enemy deals damage, regular damage to their health bar, but also to enemies that can be staggered, it deals poise damage. And upon reaching a certain threshold, the next attack that breaks that threshold will also stagger the enemy. Ooh, okay, so this fight is actually scary. Coming up is Gideon, and you wouldn't think, but Gideon can be such an asshole. There's two RNGs that can happen. Either he just takes my attacks like a champ and dies, or rolls away, and then the fight can be a mess. Hopefully it's gonna be the first scenario, but we'll see. He's too busy talking smack right now, so I'll just buff up and hit him. What's nice is that I'm not in combat yet, so the first attack doesn't cost any stamina. Attack me, brother. Come on. Okay, we're good. That was kind of scary, because he did roll that charge R2. Now he's gonna talk for a long time. But then he didn't do any memes. Like I was trying to look for him healing to see if I need to interrupt a heal with an R1, or if he was gonna go for some attacks, but I could just do the charge R2, and he did go for a charge R2able attack, so that was fine. But yeah, he talks too much. That's why skipping him is normally faster, but it's obviously in glitchless that wouldn't be allowed, because you need a specific glitch for it, because the skip where you just use geometry was patched out. But that him talking for so long is basically the biggest reason why skipping him is very quite a bit faster. Millennia is still gonna be happening. It's the second to last boss. But first, Godfrey. So Godfrey is also very cool. Again, I'm gonna be trying to utilize the fact that poise damage is, you know, transitions from phase 1 to phase 2. But it's gonna also depend on some RNG that I get in first phase. Here, notice I do not use the Golden Bow because I would have too much damage. I need to build up poise before killing him in phase 1. If I also use Golden Bow, I would kill him too soon. So after the riposte here, where its poise is reset, I will do a charge R2 into an R1, into rolling this, wait for stamina, and another charge R2. That puts him all the way to like the limit of his poise. Start with a charge R2 here, that's gonna stagger into a riposte. And now he's gonna start buffing because I've dealt enough damage and I can just finish him off. Perfect.
Wow, that is so labbed out.
It's really cool. It's such a cool setup. I really like these setups for bosses. It basically forces you to, you know, there's still some RNG, so it's not always the same. Yet at the same time, it rewards execution. Like, you need to execute well. And the RNG generally isn't gonna cost you as much time as just, you know, not going for these staggers and stuff like that. So now we have 40 sacks that I talked about a while ago. 40 sacks is another boss where I can abuse headshots, believe it or not. It's gonna be interesting if I can get the fight perfectly. If I do, it's gonna be really fast, spending minutes to set this fight up, only to have it last like less than a minute, but we'll see, we'll see. First, however, I need to get hugged for quite a while. And then because in order to get like the second part of this quest, you need to reload the area. So as soon as I stop hugging Fia, I just I quit out and I'll talk to her again, get hugged one more time. Guess what I can do is unequip and re-equip the Serpent Hunter so that I'm not two-handing and I can buff myself up quicker. Alright, here,
hugs?
fortunately, I only need one
Any
line.
hugs in the chat? Ooh, a little water break, that's a good idea.
Yep. Alright, so we're gonna buff up now, enter the fight, look away to keep the stream PG, and what I'm gonna try to do is get 2 charge R2 headshots at the start, and that should hopefully force out a specific attack that I can punish with more headshots. We'll see. It also depends on where the lightning goes here at the beginning. Okay, that's the first 2 headshots. Dodge this attack. Punish. He's gonna fly and do his little or big spin move. Jump R1 headshot, jump R2 headshot, and that's 40 sacks. Awesome, that was perfect again. But we still have some very, very difficult parts of this run coming up. And that is the Helix Tree and Elfile, everyone's favorites. Also, you saw me use one of the blessings. This is to, normally when you hug Fia, you essentially get this Baldakin blessing into your inventory. It's a consumable that you can use to get extra poise. We talked about just, you know, moments ago what poise is. However, if you keep it in your inventory unactivated, it gives you a 5% HP debuff, and I don't really care about the extra poise, I don't need that, so I just used it after 40 sacks to get rid of that debuff. And now I'm running to the Ordina, the liturgical town, which normally has an ever jail. And you have to complete it. You have to basically, just like in Celia Town, where we also did a skip, you have to light up a bunch of forges to release the seal up there. But there's a skip that I can do here, however. That being said, it is pretty difficult to do, so it might take a couple of tries. But I'll be jumping around an invisible wall here. And if I miss it, I have to quit out. If I don't quit out on time, I'll probably die, and that's not cool, so... But yeah, it's a very precise jump, so it might take a couple of tries. I haven't really practiced it. That was very close, but I turned to the left a bit too aggressively. You basically are getting a little bit of a bump from the invisible wall. Like that? Okay, that was a lot better than I expected it to be.
Nice.
So you get a little bump from the invisible wall because the game's like, you know, trying to help you reach a platform. And it's one of those little things that developers put into their games to, you know, make the movement a little bit smoother and not make it as punishing. And if I turn exactly when I get that little bump, I'm able to swerve all the way to the left side and that way jump around the invisible wall. And skip Ordina this way. This is funny because it's another one of those things where there was a different skip as well, where you could basically scale up a rock. However, they removed that rock in 1.04. So, yeah, we now have to do this more difficult skip instead.
This area is very cool, but also screw this area.
Yeah, I do like the Holic tree a lot.
Yeah,
I think
same.
the Holic tree is good. Elfal is nice visually. It reminds me of Analondo color-wise.
Yes,
But-
yes.
Holy smokes, the enemy placement is like Miyazaki just went absolute haywire and started like randomly putting all kinds of NPCs everywhere.
I love how we just blame only Miyazaki for every design decision, even though undoubtedly there's a whole team of designers on these games.
I mean, most likely, you know, he has to give the final okay, so it's his fault.
It's true.
All right, I take this grace just in case something goes awry. There's a skip that you can do down the elevator where you abuse the iframes of a repose, but we count that as a glitch, so cannot do it. It's not that big of a deal because it saves only like 18 seconds, so we have to run around instead. More quit outs. You notice me spamming them here a little bit. It's because I don't get a stand-up animation at all in any of these areas, and they allow me to get around the ants faster. Here I'm gonna heal up. Don't mind me, lads. And let's go to Loretta. Loretta's another one of those fights that Flame of the Red Mains is super useful. This is another quit out scenario here. Because the crystalline enemy would shoot shards at me, and that's not cool. A little parkour to get over the top of this house instead of going through it. And then I'm gonna activate this elevator shortcut just in case something goes wrong. And another quit out to get rid of this battle mage, because they hit like a truck. I mean, everything hits like a truck here. Even though I have, you know, I have 36 vigor, it's not enough. Might seem like a big health bar, but it's not. Alright, so essentially I'll buff up again before the start of the fight, and then I'm hoping that Loretta stays close to the wall so I can kind of lock her into the corner here. And then I should be able to get a pretty good fight where I'm able to stagger her repeatedly. Okay, this will stagger again. Actually, perfect RNG. And one more for the finish, and that's Loretta. Beautiful.
Oh my god, you're 10 minutes ahead.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice. What the heck? I mean, besides the start where I died twice when running around, this run has been pretty clean, yeah.
The longest ladder ever.
What a thrill!
Did the Loretta split happen early?
The split is moved. The late game splits are messed up again because of, well, they're not messed up again, but they were deleted partially because of some route changes. Okay. It's possible that it happened early though, yeah. Because I originally actually planned for the split to happen on the elevator. But yeah, it's, this is an accurate pace. Like, it did split. Like, I did gold by 3 minutes, which seems weird, but it should all be accurate still.
Okay.
Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Who knows?
This is what happens when you make a lot of route changes, guys. Like, it's possible that I am that I'll basically finish this Malenia split, and I'm gonna lose like 3 minutes on it again. Yeah, I should be losing time on this split for sure. Because I used to split in the drainage channel grace, but I don't actually take that grace anymore. And so the split happens before Malenia. There's supposed to be an enemy here, yeah. Where the hell was he? Was slacking off.
It's been a long day.
It has. You're not supposed to say that as you woke up 10 minutes before the start of the show, but...
I meant for him, not for me. I'm doing fine.
Yeah, I got you. So here, there's one cool little thing that we did when I was at the Albinaric village, getting the one half of the Halectry medallion. I also picked up this dagger because it has quick step, and it actually allows me to quick step through this lake here. And because of that, I'm not actually gonna get rotten. And that way I don't have to take the next grace and can skip it completely. So instead of having to roll through here, I can just abuse the quick step, even though like when I cannot actually use the dagger, don't have the stats for it, I can still use the movement mechanic. Very neat. Yeah. I'm trying to equip the bow, but things are getting in the way. So yeah, normally, I say normally, on 1.04 there's still a skip for this area, where you can basically go to the elevator shortcut that leads to Malenia, and you can just drop down, and your corpse hits the button and activates it. However, that was patched in 1.05, so in this run we have to run around like this. Ow. Alright, so I'm gonna take this grace instead of the drainage channel. I'm also gonna warp to it to replenish resources again. Like this. Yeah, we're definitely gonna be losing time on this split. But that's fine. Alright, Malenia, well, let's see how it goes. Thank you. This is the boss everybody waits for. I'll be able to strafe the opener, hopefully, and get 2 charge R2s in. 2 charge R2s in and R1 are enough for a stagger, so that should be a pretty good start to the fight, but we'll see. Uh-oh. Okay, whatever. I was too far away there. All right. That's millennia for you guys.
I cannot believe you got an R1 in during waterfowl. It's so dumb. That's awesome.
So cool. That was nice. All right. Yeah, so we did, obviously, the splits kind of went back to normal. Okay, so now for these two last fights, this is also going to be hella cool. I'm probably going to get hit entering this fight because I want to open with 2 charge R2s. And this is finally the time when the pickled turtleneck I bought at the very beginning of the fight, run rather, is going to come into play. I'll be applying them for Elden Beast afterwards, which should have been a very, 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 very tight execution. Allow me to one-cycle him, but we'll see. Oh, damn. Stagger, please. No. Okay, this might be a bit awkward right now. Okay, I had to improvise a little bit. Unfortunately, oh, the turtleneck also got popped. That's no good. That's fine, though. I wasn't sure what he was gonna do. I wasn't sure if he was already gonna teleport away, or if he was going to, go for the jump attack again. So instead of healing, I should have just popped the turtleneck immediately. That's fine, though. A little annoying, but also fine. See, like, I wasn't sure whether he was gonna do this or the teleport away. If I knew I was gonna TP, I would have used the neck here. Well, I simply should have healed to full, but yeah, that's Radagon. I'm not going to be able to one-cycle on the beast, unfortunately, but I'll try to get as much damage in anyways before I have to dodge things. Alright, I'll have to deal with this circle now. But after that, hopefully we should be fine. Whoop. One and two, and that's Elden Beast.
GG, dude. GG.
Well, I think I redeemed myself a little bit after that horrible Radan incident.
I would say so. That's a PB and world record live on GDQ Hotfix. Catalyst, congrats.
Thank you. Okay, so unfortunate time loss here because of that Radan death, but overall that worked pretty well. Thanks for GG's everybody in the chat. Much appreciated. Boom, there we go. 5 minutes PB, not bad. That is how I like to end my week, to be honest.
Yes, yes. And gamers, please, if you're not following Catalyst, please do. Let's get one more slash shout out in the chat here. And just pop that follow. It's one click, and I promise you won't regret it. Catalyst, any final thoughts? We kind of got to wrap up kind of quick here because we're a little over, but any quick final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say once again, thanks for having me, Adef. It's always a fun time to talk to you, always a pleasure. So thank you. And go follow my Twitch, my YouTube. I make videos about speedruns as well. Go check them out. They're kind of cool, if I do say so myself. And hope you guys enjoyed the run. If you have any questions about it, you can either ask me, in the Discord, or you can ask me on my stream or whatever. I'm always happy to answer. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching PB Precipice. Thank you again to Catalyst for joining us. Do not go anywhere. There is more GDQ hotfix coming up right after this. We have It's Dangerous to Go Alone, which is a show hosted by our very own Frozen Flygon, and they will be showing off co-op Lego games. So be sure not to miss that. Stick around for that. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to press the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. Also go to twitch.tv/GamesDoneQuick if you're interested in looking at our live content, starting weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern and weekends at 1 p.m. Eastern. Everybody, I have been Adef. As always, you can find me on all things as Adef, surprisingly. And everyone, please be well, stay safe, and stick around for It's Dangerous to Go Alone right after this.